Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Lumberslayer and Friends podcast. I am the one true Lumberslayer, Alex Abishan, joined as always by Adam Friedman.
Yo.
Today we break new ground.
We have some very special metal and beer enthusiasts in the house. Been looking very forward to this. Thank you so much for being here. We have, well, I'll let you introduce yourselves,
Okay.
if you will.
So I'm Brigitte Evariste.
And I'm her brother, William Durnwald.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Smooth.
Welcome.
Super smooth. Oh, thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're so excited.
Awesome to be here.
William and Brigitte have brought us some lovely beers to sample. I usually ask Adam what we're drinking today, but I will ask you guys, what are we drinking today?
What are we starting with, Bridge?
So we have two selections from ConfluxCity Brewing Company in Portland, Michigan.
Which is where we're
grew
from.
up. The first is Hoptoplasmic Residue. That's an IPA.
Yeah.
William,
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
want to say anything about it?
It's delicious.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's flying off the shelves over there, so.
Well, I got to say off the bat, I like your guys' style. 2 full 64-ounce growlers. So
Go hard.
we're not going to go light on the beer. So I can definitely appreciate that. So I did want to touch on it briefly here. So, Brigitte, you and I have been friends a long time, but I haven't seen you since. I was trying to think of when the last time I saw you. It was back in the Chicago years.
Yeah, and I left in 2011.
So it was probably 2011.
I went on
I mean,
like 9 years.
I moved there in 2010.
Yeah.
So, and you know my sister, you know my wife. We know a bunch of common people from the Chicago years. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've moved across the country a couple times, as have I. And
well, I moved. Yeah, we moved out of the country.
out of the country.
Then back in. Because when I left Chicago, I moved with William to Vietnam. And we lived there for a year.
You guys were in Vietnam?
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
It's part of my timeline. Yeah.
Just
yeah.
time out real quick. I don't want to gloss over William pouring these beers through his microphone like a fucking expert.
Boss.
Nailing it.
Thank
Wow.
you.
Not only that, but like being a proper host and serving everybody before himself. What a guy.
He's pretty good.
That's why he went to Canada. Because he's a good person. That's where good people live.
Yeah. My other brother's in Mexico. I'm the only loser.
Yeah,
Oh, shit.
we're all over the place.
Yeah.
He's a world traveler.
Yeah.
So how was the beer in Vietnam? Mostly Asian lagers?
Yeah. Which, yeah, I love craft beer, but honestly, when it's just hot as shit, it's one of the most refreshing.
Right.
And it's like so cheap. I mean, the language school that we worked at, we were teaching during the evenings most of the time. And then we'd get like a group of teachers, and we'd go to just some place on the side of the street, and we would drink beer for a few hours. The table would just be covered in beer bottles, and at the end of the night, the guy's like, $5.
Holy shit.
It was unbelievable.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
unbelievable. So
Yeah, it went
I
down
mean,
like water.
Yeah,
It was really
yeah.
easy. I mean, Tiger. Have you ever had Tiger?
Yeah.
Tiger
There's a
beer.
lot of that.
Yeah.
A lot of beer lao. Really light stuff for
Yeah.
the most part.
But-
So nothing like that stands out incredibly
Well,
Yeah.
beer wise.
shall we?
Yeah,
Cheers.
absolutely.
guys.
Cheers.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers to beers and to friends.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Oh, she's good.
Wow. That is a hazy boy. Mm-hmm. Or is it a girl? I don't know.
Yeah. It's about everything you'd want out of a hazy. Fruit's light, but refreshing.
It's not too heavy on the hop
No.
Not at all.
flavor, you know.
No, it's nicely
I like
balanced.
it.
Yep.
She's good.
Yeah, he said it's super popular right now. So ConfluxCity, we both grew up in Portland, Michigan. Our parents have I guess we moved there when I was like
96.
Yeah, 96.
Yep.
My parents bought a native Michigan wildflower farm.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Really amazing place to grow up as far as
For sure.
views and the
Just
the
stuff
farm's
to
just
do.
rad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the city town itself is really pretty small. Not a whole lot going on, but now more and more. And so a guy that I graduated with, Jim Hilligan, he moved back. He went away. I think he was on the East Coast for a while, learning the craft, and then moved back. He's growing his own hops, and he's opened up ConfluxCity with his wife, Kylie. And they're just incredible. I don't know if you got a chance to talk to him when you went, but...
There was a young girl bartending.
Okay.
Over there.
Yeah, Jim's really great. They started doing wine as well. I think they have a
Really?
couple wines, yeah. But they're all over the place. They have a really nice space.
That's really cool.
It's cool. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we actually have a Conflux sticker in the bar.
Oh, great.
Oh, nice.
So
Very cool.
I got to take a picture of it and
Yeah.
send it to Jim because he's really excited about this. I can't wait to...
right on.
I
Yeah.
told him all about it, so...
The mouthfeel on this is not your typical juicy IPA mouthfeel. There's something crisper about it. Usually it's like really, really, I always say, I'm famous for saying pillowy soft mouthfeel. That's really not, this is more, there's a crispness to it. Crispness.
Crisp.
A crispness to it.
Yeah, I really like
This
it.
is a good beer.
Doesn't linger.
Yeah,
It's like
it
there's
really
gone.
doesn't. Yep. Agreed.
So how about metal? You guys like metal?
Oh,
I think that's why you're
a
here.
little bit,
And,
yeah.
well, and the
Well,
beer.
Yeah.
I mean...
I had a like the most general question I could think of that I wanted to just drop on you guys, sort of get the ball rolling here.
Sure.
What is it that appeals to you about metal? Because like, let's face it, most of my family and friends, they don't like metal. They don't understand why I like metal. So what is it about the metal genre that draws you in? What does it do for you?
Do you want to start with that, or you want me to?
I can go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's...
You guys are basically the same
No, you
person,
go.
right?
No,
We
I
are. Well, one speak for both. Yeah.
I think it's changed over time for me, but I've always been drawn to, I guess, like when it comes to music, art, film, books, I don't go for the light beach read, like, ever. And my aesthetic and taste definitely usually falls towards the dark side of anything. So I guess from the beginning, just everything about metal, I mean, our relationship, brother-sister relationship is like very, we're both feeding each other all the time and always have been. So I can definitely say that like William's been a huge influence. But I think the other piece to that was our family. I mean, we were raised to see live music. Like, we've been going to concerts since before we could walk. We were just going to shows all the time, and that has been a constant in my adult life. And so going to metal shows has been such a big piece of the experience, I guess, for me. I mean, we had a conversation yesterday about how we felt about certain albums, just listening in your room versus seeing them live, and how that can be totally different. And really change the way I felt about a band or just the sound itself. So that's my answer.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah, for me, I think in high school I really got into kind of the punk, just punk music a bit. So for me, it was like the energy and the vibe of metal that I then kind of transitioned to. And then since, I mean, I don't really listen to punk that much anymore, but and there's a part of it I always tell my wife doesn't. I dragged her to like a Gojira show.
Our
like,
significant
one of the
others
first
have
times,
been to-
I met her in Vietnam, but like when she first came to visit me in Portland, Brigitte was home and it was like, Black Dahlia Murder's coming, and I had seen Black Dahlia Murder a bunch of times, and my wife was like, you know what, I'm kind of interested. we took her, and she was like, I don't get it. There's a part of that I think makes, like, when I talk to people and they're like, I don't get it makes me smile a little bit. Like, I like the fact that you don't get it. That's I get it, right? It's like it makes it this thing that I share with a select few other people, and it I don't know, it to me it doesn't feel like this exclusive thing, but it's just like I like the fact that you don't really understand it. That
Like channel your inner teenager. Nobody understands me.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but I also like that it isn't, pre-packaged bullshit, bubblegum bullshit that like you just have a feeling about it right off the bat, and that's how you're gonna feel. There's a lot of bands, a lot of songs that have changed for me over time. Like I've almost acquired a taste to that on first listen was like brutal or abusive almost, and then after a few listens it changed. So
That's awesome. I find for me the things that I went through a process of acquiring a taste for are some of my favorite things now. Like as I've gotten more mature, and a lot of those things take time. And metal is at the top of the list, I think. Because I remember being 17, 18 years old, and I want to say I liked heavier music, but not like Cattle Decapitation, right? But I was sort of drawn toward things that made me headbang a little bit. But still listening to death metal, I'd be like, what the hell? Why would anyone listen to this? And then I find myself taking baby steps towards something more and more brutal. And then now, like, the joy and the pleasure I get out of listening to metal, like, you can't top it. It's like one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I love.
How's that for a contribution?
I love the emphasis on the live shows that you guys dig so much. Due to all sorts of life circumstances, Alex and I don't make it out to as many shows as we would like to, and we should.
I rarely go to shows.
But you're playing a lot of shows
Yeah.
these days too, so there's that aspect to it as well.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed over time for sure. I mean, like, definitely in college, I would take grocery money and buy concert tickets,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
like, and I was going to everything and anything I could. And the great thing about most metal shows worth going to, it's $15, $12, especially here in Detroit. I mean, it's awesome how affordable it is. So, you know, you can try something out. Maybe, you know, it's not like your favorite band ever, or you're not sure how the show's going to be, but you just spent $12, so it's not a huge outlay
Right.
of money where other genres would be.
You're totally right about that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many parts of it, but like a lot of times the venues are amazing. I mean, St. Vitus in Brooklyn, like, my heart, there's a piece of my heart on the floor there. Like, I love that place. I have so many memorable shows there. Met and saw a lot of great people there. Places like that.
Did you ever get to see St. Vitus at St. Vitus?
No.
That happened once, I believe.
Yeah.
Really? Like they
Yeah.
just played there
Oh, yeah.
once? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a bunch of shows that I've seen there. I also went and saw, do you remember Metalhead, that movie that came out a few years ago?
Was that the New Zealand or Australian one?
Shoot, it was in Norway it was definitely in
Okay.
Scandinavia.
What am I thinking of?
It was about a girl,
Okay, yeah.
a woman,
Okay.
young woman.
Yeah, there were
who,
like 3 weird black metal narrative movies that came out all at the same time. I can't remember. I get them mixed up.
Yeah, I went to St. Vitus. They did the opening of that film at St. Vitus like
That's
the
fucking
day
cool.
before Thanksgiving, maybe 5 years ago. It was awesome. I was like there with 10 other people just watching this Metalhead movie.
You ever watch that 2 Minutes to Late Night?
I've seen it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a like late night talk show
It's pretty fun.
based around heavy metal. Mutoid Man is the house band,
Yeah.
Whoa.
and it's live at St. Vitus. So I'm very familiar with the
Oh.
venue without having ever been to the venue.
Oh, okay.
So
The episode I saw had the vocalist from Royal Thunder. She
Oh.
was on there, and it was
Parsons,
really
right?
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was badass. Yeah, she's amazing.
The show's really fucking fun.
Yeah, we were just talking
family,
about this.
We have a family crush on her.
Yeah. Collectively, between the three of us,
my
how many
gosh.
times we've seen them?
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna start like
Yeah.
recognizing us and.
Guys are fucking groupies over here.
Oh,
Yeah,
for sure.
we
for
were just
sure.
talking about this on the way over, though. Format-wise, like I feel like I miss a lot of stuff on YouTube. I'm crazy on podcasts. I'm like always caught up. I've always listened to everything because I'm in the car a lot
Right on.
or I'm cooking or something. But I very rarely sit down and like watch YouTube. So I feel like I miss stuff that's on there. Because you also watch, what was the one you were telling me about where they do reviews?
Oh,
really
so
like-
Banger TV,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
out of Toronto. Like those guys, and I see those guys at shows all the time.
Yeah.
Around the city.
Yeah, I'm glad
They
that
do a
that
good
Banger
job.
does what they do.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like a important service almost to like our community of metal people. You know,
For sure, and like, the format of it, I think, is fantastic. They'll review albums, and I know going in, like I would never listen to that album. Not really into power metal or
Right.
whatever genre it is, but I just like the people doing it, and I love. And I subscribe to Decibel magazine, and it's the same in the back, like. Even albums that I'll never listen to, I love reading the reviews. I love the way that people describe music and talk about music that they're passionate about, or they talk about music that really sucks. Like, it's my favorite to skim through and find the ones that have the lowest ratings and read those, because, like, I want to hear you describe
How
how terrible it is. Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting.
So I want to come back to metal movies in just a minute, but I wanted to touch quickly, William. So you talked about you started with the punk. You sort of went in that direction, but then sort of got into metal. Was there a crossover band or a handful of bands that sort of you got more on the darker side and went toward metal? Brigitte, you're up next. So thank you.
Yeah, so think about that. Man, I think it was like the harsher, like in some of those bands. Yeah, I mean, and now they're fairly popular, but like early Rise Against, I remember like they would had these like heavier vocals that I think really started to turn me on to the growling or the screaming or the yelling. And then I played guitar, and I was learning guitar in high school a bit. And for me, the musicality of metal and what the musicians were doing was very different than the very simplistic punk stuff that I found, which I think got me more into that style of music. But I'm trying to remember some of the...
I mean, I was going to say, because, like, I remember going to Warped Tour together.
Uh-huh.
And I remember, that was primarily, I would say, punk. But then I remember seeing Avenged Sevenfold before they
yep.
started singing.
Yep.
They were still screaming.
Yeah.
And we were both.
We were really
Like-
into Avenged Sevenfold. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. They were definitely kind of a...
I think that for me was like, I feel like sort of a doorway. Do I listen to it now? Hell no. But
No, but,
but that was like a gateway.
Right, you can't like backtrack your teenage
Right.
bands that you liked, and
No.
you need a jumping off point. So
Yeah.
For sure.
there's no shame in the game.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, respect it, embrace it,
How about for
Yeah.
you? How about for you?
dude. Honestly, like really early on, Fred Durst was that was like, oh, this guy's fucking, this guy's
No
rad.
shame. No
This
shame.
guy's rad,
Yeah.
and then but I was a kid, right? And
Yeah.
then things get slowly, as you get more experience and you listen to more things. But it really was not until I met some new friends when I went to college that really got me more into the extreme stuff.
Okay.
And so, I really got into the European metal, a lot of the melodic death metal, power metal. Started to listen to Dimmu Borgir, and then, my real first favorite metal band though was Children of Bodom.
Okay.
So they basically rest in peace at this point. That band is no longer in existence.
Yeah.
But so I have a really non-traditional background. Most metalheads you talk to, of course, it's like Metallica, Slayer,
Yeah.
Megadeth. I never went through that at all. In fact, I don't really care for any of those bands. Well, Slayer, but like I listen to Metallica, it does nothing for me. I mean, a couple of their albums are absolute legend, right? So I appreciate them, but I'm not going to sit down and listen to that
Same.
almost ever.
Yeah.
So, and then Alex is a completely different background. Al?
See, it's funny you jump back to the Limp Bizkit era because I always leave that off the list. Honestly, I have like
Rock on and have faith.
Right.
I was like, yes.
yeah,
You know?
because that was definitely part of.
But
like,
I was 12, so.
Yeah, exactly. It was a part of growing up, especially with like. Here's the thing: I jocked off of Adam like fucking crazy when I was a kid. Cause,
I was the
like,
cool cousin.
He was the cool cousin.
Who wouldn't?
So, like a lot of my stuff that I like now came from growing up with Adam and that feeding in. So, Limp Bizkit definitely plays into that for sure, and it's something that I'd never give any kind of credit to, and I definitely probably should.
Yeah.
But like, my dad was listening to Offspring when I was a kid, which is fucking weird. So that kind of plays in too. But like, when I'm thinking about the jumping off point of where like metal really took off, it wasn't until like way late high school. I was really listening to a lot of like indie rock and like classic rock during my early high school years, and then like it just kind of the real jumping off point happened when like I started making the connection from Pink Floyd to Mastodon, and that's where shit really started taking off. So
We could spend 2 hours talking about Mastodon.
oh, we like Mastodon.
Oh,
It's essentially his favorite band.
It
so.
for sure. Oh,
I mean, that really was the tipping point.
Well,
I mean,
I mean,
Crack the
yeah.
Sky for me was like, I think then I.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure Alex and Bridget are on the verge of starting their own podcast to just
Right.
talk about
just
that.
to talk about Mastodon.
Blood Mountain was like the first
Oh,
CD that I bought that was like on my own discovery. Like I had all my friends in high school were metalheads, and I wasn't, and it took me a while to kind of jump into it. And Mastodon was the first thing that was like mine alone, and like I just really fucking jumped in on it. So
I think that's still my favorite.
Blood Mountain, it's mine
Yeah.
too.
So
yeah,
good.
I mean, I discovered Mastodon at Crack the Sky, but then I went back and was like, oh wait, this is way better.
That's fucking
Leviathan,
crazy. Yeah, if you like pick up Remission and you pick up Crack the Sky, it's like two different fucking bands, and
Yep.
they're just at the same time just equally fucking crazy and good.
So amazing.
It seems to me, just off of our conversations over the years, that, Bridget, you're really drawn toward like the most blasphemous side of black metal. In fact, it was probably like about a year, I would say about a year ago, that you even told me about Patushka, and I didn't know about it. And you were like, what? And so I looked into it, and now we end up at where we're at with that band, and it's really sad and everything else.
sad.
And you even had tickets to the show that was canceled.
We both did. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
supposed to go up to
I got it
Toronto after.
for her birthday.
Yeah.
She was gonna come to Toronto and see him.
But I have seen them.
Yeah, but she got to see the legit
The
Patushka, like the first.
Liturgia, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm super jealous of that.
Yeah, that was last summer? Summer before. Yeah, 2 summers ago. Oh.
Hey, Bridge, check out. This band's coming to New York. You should check
Yeah.
them out. She sounds like son of a bitch.
I'm
Why
like,
did I tell her to do that?
It was
man.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have the behemoths of the world, which is, one of the biggest, highly regarded band. I mean, like their release last year was ridiculous. What are some of the other blasphemous things that you're interested in?
I love Rotting Christ.
Oh yeah,
I mean, especially Rituals.
yeah, that was really good. We did a review of their album that came out this year. Probably didn't quite live up to the previous record, but
No.
Yeah, I wasn't huge on it. I didn't think it was bad. It just wasn't.
it was
blown away.
cool. I dug it. Rotting Christ is awesome though.
Yeah. Meshuggah,
Sugar's dope.
it's definitely one of my most memorable shows.
You got. I mean,
so many-
surprisingly for me, like you really got into the Mayhem this year,
yeah,
which
the new
I mean, for
Mayhem.
me, it wasn't one that warranted a lot of return listens. But Bridget was like, "Oh, have you listened to this? Oh, I can't stop listening to this." I was like, "Wow, Bridge, getting into the Mayhem.
Yeah.
It's impressive."
Definitely. I mean, I love the new Gate Creeper.
Gate
As
Creeper's fucking
well.
great.
And you were the one, you were like, you need to listen to this.
Yeah, I'm a fanboy at this point.
Yeah.
Man, I love that. I love that mid-paced. I kind of have taken a step away from death metal for the most part. Like, just haven't listened to that much. There's not too many bands to me that, I don't know. that I was listening to that much. But this year, wow! I mean, that Gate Creeper was phenomenal.
Yeah, and it was a super amazing moment when I realized that 3 of the guys from Gate Creeper are from one of my favorite melodic doom outfits, Spirit Adrift. And I was like, what? So those guys are busy. They released an album with both bands this year.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that. Those guys are workhorses, man.
Yeah, it's wild.
But then, I don't know, for me, and we, again, like I keep referring to last night, because William and I basically talked about metal for like 12 hours. I think we were up till about 3.
Yeah.
Drinking and talking about metal. But
way to keep it rolling, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like 24
that,
hours of serious. But and maybe it's just because I'm getting older, I've kind of lost, like, some of these descriptors and subgenres I've lost track of. Like, this shoegaze thing came out of nowhere, and I'm like, what the fuck? Can someone explain to me what this means? I think that, I don't know, I wouldn't categorize, like, I just like this type. And maybe you could, because you know a little bit more about them, what my taste is, but I don't know what it is. I just kind of swish it around in my mouth and
yeah, but you've got I feel like it's the same with me. I mean, there's bands in all of those different genres that I kind of take something from. I wouldn't say that I just listen to one particular type of metal, and I think you're the same. I don't think there's one genre that you listen to, but like there's bands that do something really, really well, whether it's I don't like listening to a bunch of bands that sound like Meshuggah. I like Meshuggah.
Yeah.
So many people say what you said about Meshuggah. Seeing them live was like a life-changing experience. They're that amazing.
I was actually really nervous. Like, I remember my hands shaking going in like a little bit of a sweat, because I was never really able to listen to a whole album front to back. It made me twitchy. It made me feel like,
really,
a little
rhythmically they're on their own planet. That band they're insane.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been tattooed, but if you've sat for a solid chunk of hours, it feels like you are still rattling, right, after they take the needle away. And that's how I would feel listening to Meshuggah, which I loved in some ways. But I was actually nervous going to the show, because I was like, I don't know how the fuck I'm going to, like,
come down
digest
from that.
this. But it was, I mean, it was incredible. Really amazing. Really amazing show to see.
Another round, he says.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
Oh, the same?
Cool. Thanks, sir. So, I don't know if you guys can tell this, but I'm a CD guy.
Yeah.
Really? Really?
I like to do this conversation whenever we have a guest on. What do you guys like to listen? What's your preferred format for listening?
William's way more interesting.
So I got into in high school. I was really big into the CD, into just going with my really good friend Jake Lawrence. And like it seemed like
Jake Lawrence is a good man.
He's a good man.
Yeah.
Once or twice a month, we would, whatever money we'd kind of pooled together, we would drive to Best Buy and then just, like buy stuff based on the album cover or the sticker that said "for fans of," And then it was all about finding new stuff. So now I've gotten that way with vinyl. I mean the physical format, flipping through different bands, opening it up, looking at the lyrics, looking at the artwork. Man,
I like
you
this guy.
You can't you can't replace that with the digital. Just a pic. I don't know. There's something about physically holding onto it. So, my wife got me an awesome record player, and that is my preferred format. Now it's like, I'm a huge Russian Circles fan, but it's like I waited.
Yeah.
Love
you guys have your own podcast. You don't need me. You don't need me.
Listen, no, your guys' that podcast was awesome.
Yeah.
And their new album came out, and I was like, I'm not buying the vinyl until I see them live. So I just feel like the money that I'm giving them, like if that pays for your sandwich tonight or like whatever it is, like I want that sort of like interaction. And so that's my preferred.
Yeah, I mean, I'm boring. have been listening to stuff on Spotify.
Get the fuck out of my house.
I know.
Yeah, leave.
I know. I mean, I don't know if this is any sort of justification. I'm conscious of and wanting to support artists that I listen to. So I know that, when I go to shows, I almost always buy a t-shirt. My stacks of t-shirt are out of control. Or a patch or a pin or whatever. I really like that, like, exchange happening there, to support in any way I can. And Bandcamp too. Like, I'll always buy
That's
the
cool.
download, and yeah.
On the digital end of things, I mean, I feel like Bandcamp is really cool. I almost get that sort of record store feel just going through Bandcamp and, finding people that like the same albums that I do, following them, seeing what other stuff that they like. I find so much underground stuff that it's like, I bought this album based on this guy's description of it. And it's like, it still has that cool feeling where you feel like you're finding something that, yeah.
You have some stuff on Bandcamp, don't you?
I got something on me.
You want to plug it?
He wanted to say it.
No, seriously, plug it.
No, I've got. I put out some music, just instrumental. Brigitte's wearing my shirt.
Oh yeah.
My wife did the album art for it.
Yeah.
Thornwood. Yeah, which
So
is
our last name, Durnwald, well, no longer my last name, but our last name, Durnwald, translated into
Dude.
In English
is
to Thornwood.
Nice.
which
Yeah.
always sounded.
That's how Lumberslayer happened.
Really?
Yeah. Our last name Abashan is like French for to cut wood or person of the woods. So I just kind of adapted it.
That's badass.
And that's how the Lumberslayer thing happened.
Very cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
My last name sucks and it's really hard to pronounce, especially if you haven't seen it. So when I was planning on getting married to my wife, I was like, do you really want this stupid ass last name? Because we could do something way the fuck cooler. And I was trying to come up with shit, and Lumberslayer was the best thing I came up with. So I adapted it because I like it better than my last name.
Cool.
That's badass.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So you guys want to review an album? Does that
Sure,
sound like a good idea?
Let's
I'm
talk
into that.
about it. Yeah.
So, Brigitte, was it your? Because I mean, you told me you were gonna listen to this Schammasch, which is totally new to me.
Yeah.
Where'd you hear about these guys?
It came up. It came up on a list, and to be honest, I hadn't even listened to the whole album when I recommended it, but I got really excited that they were from Switzerland, which
Yeah,
our mother's Swiss.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna ask my mom what the name means. It's gonna be great. She didn't know. And it's I mean, we can talk about it.
It's about as close to a palindrome as you can get without getting wet.
Yes, palindrome. That's what I was trying to think of.
Mm.
What did I keep saying? Anagram.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's great.
Close.
Yeah,
Close.
So, new album from, is it Schammasch? That's how I've been saying it.
Schammasch?
Schammasch, yeah.
I mean,
That's how I.
with my Midwestern roots, I always say
Schammasch.
Schammasch, but I'm pretty sure in Europe they don't have those harsh vowels.
I was driving on Gratiot. Listening to Sham.
Hearts of No Light.
Yep.
So this is the fourth full length.
Use the Force.
Use the Force. Rare Swiss band. Black avant-garde. I would say borderline atmospheric.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
A hefty dose of the avant-garde. I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys do whatever, whenever they want. They don't
Yep.
play by anyone's rules.
No one's.
So we start with the track Winds That Pierce the Silence. That's a fun one to roll off the tongue. Just a kind of piano intro-y track for the album. Get kind of like a horror movie vibe going on here with some guitar doodles.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool track. Nice way to introduce it. What we're going to find with this album is that it's big and open and everything is really sink your teeth in kind of riffy stuff. So, nice way to set up the album, I suppose.
The way I sort of cognitively made my way through this opener was kind of like beautiful, kind of creepy piano intro, gives way to like Trans-Siberian Orchestra, gives way to like kind of what Al was saying, like 80s, 90s thriller movie, and I was like, what in the world did I just listen to? Very, very well done. I mean, those are just three things I would never put together.
Yeah.
And here these guys are making this ridiculous track to open their beautiful album.
Yeah.
Crazy.
we move into Ego Sum Omega. Here's where we get to kind of feel out what this band is, or at least what this album's about. We're going to go black and gothy. There's a whole lot of goth elements to this record that I wasn't really expecting. The way Adam set it up for me was like, just be ready for a blasphemous black metal stuff, and I was kind of expecting a little something more heavy, and this is a lot more just kind of like mellow in the background, kind of easy listening for black metal, if there is such a thing.
We were saying like 80s goth.
Yeah.
Last night when we were talking about
and
it a little bit. There's
one
a
track that
specific song
comes
for
later.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know exactly which track you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
A Bridge Ablaze. Here we go with a piano and like, what are we doing? Like a drum machine or lo-fi drums kind of thing in the background. Kind of.
And then kind of getting in there with the chants.
Yeah.
Too.
Soundscapey.
Very far away. Yeah, it's very distant.
Quadmoms.
What?
Here's where I always get tripped up. Quadmons Air.
I think it's just Cadmons.
Cadmons?
Yeah, because there is no you.
I'll just go fuck myself. What do you got on this one, Adam?
I had to switch headphones for this. I had just trouble hearing this track. There's so many different things going on. It's almost like each voice, each instrument is doing their own song, and they just sort of brought the parts in together. It's chaotic. It's beautiful. This is where you get your first real big dose of the avant-garde. These guys play by absolutely no one's rules. I can respect it, but I legit had to. I had these headphones in. I put my other ones in. I was like, this is like I'm missing something. This is crazy. It's challenging to listen.
Yeah.
You know, this is not like I'm not listening to Disney hits here. This is like a completely different thing.
Yeah.
A complicated one for sure.
Complicated.
Brigitte, you want to tell us about Raised Like Razors?
I liked how I wrote down vocals almost hoarse. Like I thought, his voice kind of changed a little bit in this one. More of a desperation, and
He sounds like Nergal to me.
yes, absolutely.
there's a
you
whole-
were saying that
Yeah.
last night.
There's
Yeah.
definitely I loved you at your darkest on this album. Just in terms of the like mellow, not in your face, black stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's probably the most metal track on the album, actually.
Uh-huh. It's like, is there any continuity on this record?
What's crazy too is like if you look at the track lengths on this record, like they let so many of these songs breathe. Like you can condense so much of this shit, and it's not like it's a problem, but like it seems a little bit arbitrary at times that like we're gonna go for 8 minutes on this one. You know.
Did you need to?
Yeah.
So
That was one thing I was saying last night when we were just talking about it a little bit. It's like there's a couple of tracks that I'll definitely come back to and listen, but there's just after having listened to this album multiple times, there's stuff that's like, man, I would press skip on that. Like it just to me it's unless it's playing in the background and I'm doing something else. But if I'm listening to the music, there's a lot that I don't know, didn't do a lot for me.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It slid away a little.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't.
that's kind of where I was at on I Burn Within You. At this point, I was a little bit. I wasn't burning.
I'm burning for you. There's honestly like I'm a huge BOC guy. I honestly like felt a little bit of that in there. Like, it was almost like a play on that, and they call it "Burn with You." It's like, huh?
I gotta listen to it again. I didn't.
There was a hint of it in there.
Cool.
Either that or I'm crazy, and/or drunk.
Yeah, I'll take it. A Paradigm of Beauty. This is the one.
Yes,
would be
this
the
is
one.
And this is the one I'll come
This
back
is
to.
me the standout track of this album.
I
Flock
got
Seagulls.
I got David
Yeah,
Bowie
80s
vibes.
goth for sure.
Bowie. That's the correct.
Big time.
That's yeah.
Yeah, dude, just 80s all day.
Yeah.
So, to me, and honestly, that was my favorite track on the album.
Yep.
I
Absolutely.
thought it was fucking great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fucking Pulp Fiction. Hey, you flock seagulls. Shit gets me every time. Every time.
All in a
It's so interesting, like seeing what these guys look like, and then hearing a song like that they put out. Like you wouldn't think. I mean, they look black metal. Like
Yeah.
the full page advertisement in the magazine. They're like half of their face is just black paint, and the other half is white, and it looks so dark. But then this song, it's like it's so 80s, but man, it's good. It's like that chorus, the hooks in the vocals, man. I keep, and once I listen to that, I find myself humming it throughout the day.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a Hummer.
It's a Hummer.
Hey.
Usually we call things bangers, but I'll
I'll
take
take
Hummer.
it. Adam's going to intro the next song because I don't want to sound like an idiot.
Catabasis.
Thank you. That's what I was going to say.
You're most
So
welcome.
fuck you.
Bass or bass?
This one has some brute to it.
Yeah. It does stand out a little bit strong on the album.
Yep. Next.
Yeah, next.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good pick. Like it was fun to talk about.
I
I
was
don't
a little
know.
disappointed in myself.
Yeah.
The final track there.
Innermost.
Innermost.
Lowermost.
Lowermost.
Some serious beauty in the echoey guitars. I don't have the technical. I think that's more your side of the world, right? Didn't you say Williams has a heightened understanding of the sort of the technical side of some of
Very
these things?
highbrow.
Don't put me there.
But I don't know how to describe it other than like really beautiful echoey guitars on this track, and
For 15 minutes.
I enjoyed it. I listened to the whole thing, and I was like, man, that was delightful. I think that it is a little bit bloated. The entire album's just over an hour and 7 minutes, so probably a little bit too long. But that final track I thought was beautiful. I enjoyed it a lot.
It's cool. The big thing to me was it just didn't feel like it had purpose in the lengths of the tracks. They just seemed arbitrary and like, hey, we're just going to stick with this until we feel like stopping doing it. Like, usually, you listen to a stoner record, and you kind of, like, you're ready to sit in and buckle in for that. But, like, on this, I kind of wasn't expecting to have such redundancy
Yeah.
in it. Which, it's fine. Just, not my cup of tea.
Right.
So,
Agreed. Had either of you heard any of their previous stuff? Because I guess before this, they'd put out a trilogy, like 3 albums that were kind of...
Yeah, this is their 4th full length, from what I understand.
But those 3 albums, I think, were tied together. I don't know, like, thematically,
Like
what
a
they were...
triptych,
Yeah. And I hadn't... I mean, this was my first experience listening
Totally
to
new
them.
to me. I don't know about
Too.
you, but
Yeah.
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 When I get
Okay.
some time, I'll dive back and check out the back catalog a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't really have time to do that.
I have a good friend who refuses to listen to anything new from a band. He has to go chronological.
Huh.
Like, so if you recommend something that's like, it came out last week, nope, he's got to go back to 1988 and listen to everything they've ever done.
Wow.
Who's that?
It's Mike, down in Florida. Yeah,
No shit.
love you, Mike. Yeah,
That's a hell of a quirk. I can respect that
Man.
quirk.
Yeah, that's
he's just
respectable for
and
sure.
and I applaud him because he's that thorough, and he's that like devoted.
As a guy who has to back catalog every fucking band,
Man.
mad props.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Yeah.
That's wild.
He's his own brand of music nerd for sure.
Fuck, that's like taking it up a notch, dude.
Yeah.
I'm blown away at this point.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's a listener, man. He spins all day, every day, like I used to be before I became a father.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I would imagine you'd catch so much. There'd be so much that you would understand
He's
going through.
He's an encyclopedia.
Yeah.
For sure.
And to see, when you talk about the kind of bands that build
Mm-hmm.
or change, like we were talking about Mastodon.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Like, I can't even imagine if I would have started and then...
Listen to this new Mastodon. No.
I refuse.
Hold
go
that
back.
thought.
Yeah.
I'll see you in
Man.
a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get all the time. Nope, your boy's chronological. That's what he always says.
Wow.
Wow.
That's fucking amazing,
Super
dude.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
I mean, I think he doesn't get to stuff right away. You know, he's like he puts it on the list, but I mean, he spins, man. He gets through it.
I mean, I don't know if I'm rushing the segue here, but we were also talking about that with almost the opposite with Cattle Decapitation, because I hadn't listened to them before. And
Oh shit.
coming in fresh on this album. So cool.
Have you checked out their older catalog?
No, not yet. I definitely plan to, because actually I was surprised at how much I loved this album.
So here's what I'm going to tell you to do.
Yes.
I'm ready.
Check out the album that came out before this one.
Uh-huh.
And then go back and listen to their first album. And then tell me it's the same band.
How can you look me in the eye?
Cattle Decapitation was straight grindcore. Like 45-second song, 6-second song. Straight up grindcore before. And in the past like 3 or 4 records, they started branching out into the more proggy death stuff. And I wasn't a huge Cattle Decap fan before that, and just ever since those last couple, it's been, oh shit, these guys are dope. So
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely need to go back, because I definitely knew about the band. I think I had heard some of their earlier stuff, and I was just like, okay, this really isn't for me. And so every time they came up, it's like, then checked out this album. I was like, fuck, man, yeah. So definitely, and I'd heard that the 2 albums before this were solid. Yeah. So I gotta go back and do some work. Check those out.
Both of us.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's jump back to movies for just a quick moment. Well, we won't get to a lot of topics if we don't move along here. So, did we watch Lords of Chaos? So I know we talked about Mayhem a little bit. So you love the new record.
Mm-hmm.
Alex is a big Mayhem guy. He's got all the records, or the CDs rather. And I can obviously appreciate them. You know, Euronymous, as Rory Culkin claims in the movie, invented Norwegian black metal, which was one of my favorite things in the world. So that's cool and everything. The new album didn't really do it for me. I can obviously appreciate the quality. It hits the nail on the head for what they're trying to accomplish. But going back to the movie, have you guys did you watch it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just watched it last weekend.
Thoughts, feelings,
So it'd be fresh.
reactions.
I found it entertaining. To me it was, it's taking something that I'm really interested in and putting it in a movie. So there was a part of me that knew it wasn't gonna be. I don't know. I wasn't holding it to this standard where it's like it's gotta be true to the real. I'm like, they're making a movie about it, so they're gonna take we read. What was the book?
Lords of Chaos.
Lords of Chaos. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, weird. Yeah. Same name.
Do you remember
What a coincidence.
Do you remember that Christmas that you bought me the book? And I don't remember what I got you, but it was something. Maybe it was a shirt. And Mom was like, "Oh, where did we go wrong?"
Yeah.
And we were like, "But we just." And she was convinced.
She was kind of like,
"Yeah."
We messed up.
I've lost them.
No, I found it entertaining. I mean, I was telling Brigitte, because she just watched it the last week. Like, the portrayal of Varg, to me, I couldn't stop laughing. And then I was
amazing.
like, Varg just hooking up with all these chicks like that. I mean, this guy, if you've ever seen any of his YouTube rants that he goes on.
Dude, the thing that really got me is there's a Jewish kid named Cohen who plays Varg.
Yeah.
That just made my fucking day.
Yeah.
I was like, that couldn't be any more perfect.
Right.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was. I really thought it was entertaining. I thought it was awesome how the minute you started getting pulled into the story and these guys and their whole glamour, then they'd come in with this subtle reference to the parent. These guys are still living with their parents. Their parents
don't puke in my dad's car.
Yeah, the parents bankrolled the record store just to get them the fuck out of their hair. It kept reminding you that, bringing you back down to earth. Yeah, listen, these guys are kind of pitiful, actually.
I didn't see the movie.
Oh.
But I do want to take the opportunity to let you guys know that I was going to kill Euronymous
Okay.
And that
Bart got to him
I heard,
first.
yeah,
But
so,
Bart got there.
He beat you to the apartment.
yeah, so damn it.
It was like what you said earlier about when we were all talking about, you know, bands that we first started listening to, and, you know, Fred Durst, like Korn and all that stuff, and like you look back on it and you're like, Jesus. But like that was what you were listening to at the time, right? And that's like what Brigitte was saying, like you got like these are 16-year-old kids. I mean,
Right,
like they
yeah.
have to look back at this and just be like, but it's
At least we didn't burn
gotten
churches, though. That's
right,
probably a good thing.
right.
I mean, speak for yourself.
But yeah, I mean, like people, I don't know, like just what it's become in the aura surrounding like Norwegian black metal is like it's so serious. They were 16-year-old.
I think
Yeah.
the
And-
legend has totally
Eclipsed
yeah,
what
and become this very like epic kind of thing. And you're right. I mean,
Yeah.
they're
Well-
teenagers.
Everyone's always obsessed with like the concept of origins, right? Like where did this stuff come from? Like, so these are some of the early people doing this extreme thing, and Alex and I make fun of it all the time. It's like a true Norwegian black metal, like true cult. Like these guys are trying to sound like shit.
Yeah.
I mean, they're, even in the movie, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna put the microphone in the middle of the room, but we're gonna play far away from it." Like, you would never do that, like unless you wanted to sound like garbage,
Right.
And that's kind of like it was fuck everything, you know. We against the grain at all costs, right? But what ends up happening is people take your thing and they take it out of your hands and they refine it, they make it better, and they improve. It's like that's how the Industrial Revolution happened, right? Like you took one very simple idea and everyone builds on top of it, and it gets better and better and better. And you can't deny that people aren't doing black metal better now than they've ever done it, and
Right.
then it's because it builds, you know.
Yeah, and those guys were never gonna.
You know,
I
and
mean,
you dart out in your own direction and you create something new from but everyone's still obsessed with like the origin story. You know, you're left with this movie that is ridiculous, but I agree with you, William. Very entertaining. I was entertained the whole time, for sure.
yeah. I mean, they were gonna drive it into the. If nobody else would have taken it and done it better, as you say, like Varg was gonna just drive it into the ground. He was trying to make it a lifestyle. It didn't matter. I mean, the music wasn't even a part of it anymore. He talks about that all the time. And then the rest of them were either murdered or killed themselves. So it wasn't gonna.
Sorry.
No.
No, what's really fucking weird is like you talk about Varg and how that went, where Burzum like completely changed, where he changed the sound of Burzum. Like it's fucking funny that I got nowhere to go after that. Sorry, we had a wall.
So did he.
Let me just yeah. Hey, there you go. I will bring it back though. I like that you compared that to the Industrial Revolution, because I was going to compare it to this book that I read called "The Puppy Who Lost His Way."
Oh.
The puppy was a dog.
Thank you. Sorry, that was just a moment for me and Adam.
It's fine. It's okay.
So, did we want to pop the Scotch Ale, or you guys are still finishing up here?
Yeah, but
Yeah, I think
I
we
could
just have
finish
to
faster.
proceed with caution on that one.
Yeah, so that's like a 10%.
It's a banger.
Right? Okay.
yeah, I've got to limit my intake on that one for sure. It's delicious, but yeah.
Shall we dive into Kettle Decap?
We can do that.
Can I try to speak English and enunciate words? It's not going well today. I've noticed that. I don't know if it's I feel like I've done this for quite a while, but it feels like it's just getting worse where I can't fucking pop out a clear word.
Well, dude, remember I was making fun of you last episode about how eloquent you were. So
Oh yeah.
I don't
That's
know
fair.
I don't know what to tell you. You have good days and bad days. We all do.
guess.
I feel like it depends on what I did the night before. How the synapses are firing.
Oh, you know what? Let's pause on that for just a second. We're gonna get to cattle decapitation in just a minute. Just a quick side note I wanted to get to. So there's two bands that, for whatever reason, creates a lot of controversy. And so any guest we have, whether you're a music person or a beer person or whatever, I like to throw this out there. And it's funny too, because it's not even metal. What are our thoughts and feelings on Ghost?
How many
love
times
me
do you
some
think
Ghost.
the members of our family have seen?
So I've
Ghostfire?
taken, like, it's really fun, like, taking my parents to see Ghosts, to see Ghosts at
Ghost is one of those bands that you can take your parents to see, though. I think.
Yeah.
Like I feel like
Yeah.
that sound works.
Yeah, not my in-laws. I wouldn't
that's
no.
right.
No, but like I remember getting like the Decibel magazine, them on the cover, and my parents were like, what is this? And then being like, wait, like let me play this for you, because like my dad loves Blue Oyster Cult, and I mean just grew up listening to a lot of classic rock and stuff like that. Like, you guys are gonna love this, and sure enough, and then they like my mom and dad went to go see Ghost. We've gone to see Ghost with them. They went just on their own like one of the first times, and they were like, you know what, we'll stay for a couple songs and then we'll leave. And Dad was like, they started and we weren't going anywhere. Like, it was so entertaining. And I was like, there's something about that band that I just absolutely love. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, right? Because I have enjoyed their shows. Do I need to go to another one at this point in their
Yeah, because it's basically arena or nothing now.
Yeah, and I'm not really. I made an exception with Tool, but I don't do the arena thing. But you know, like my husband's been with me to see Ghost, and what's funny is like talking about the controversy is well. We would be in Brooklyn, we'd be out somewhere, and he'd start up a conversation with somebody, and metal would come up, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, my girlfriend, my wife, she loves metal," and then the band that he could think of was Ghost.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, you're ruining my streak.
But it's so funny because Danielle, my wife, does the same thing. She's like, "Oh, I've seen a bunch of metal bands like Ghost." I'm like, "Honey, you've seen like Gojira and Black Dahlia Murder. Like, don't start with Ghost."
No,
like,
don't lead
that's
with
not.
Ghost. He'll be like, "It's so weird because I was telling somebody how much you love metal, and I said, you know, that we went to go see Ghost, and they didn't know what I was talking about." I was like, "Oh, yeah, well, it's hard to explain." But I mean,
The non-metalers, they'll never get it. They'll never get it. The other band, in it's extra interesting, just there were 4 Michiganders, right? But what do you guys think of Greta Van Fleet? I mean, they seem to really either love or hate them. So what are your thoughts and feelings there?
I cannot stand them.
Oh
Yeah, yeah.
I as a huge Led Zeppelin fan, like the first time, like my uncle was like, "Oh, you've got to hear this band, they're out of Michigan," and he played it, and I was like, this to me, and again, this is just, it sounds like a terrible band trying to cover Led Zeppelin songs. Like I the vocals, man, I have a hard
Sure.
vocalist.
See, but I okay, I agree with every word you just said except for terrible. If you were not a Led Zeppelin fan, they wouldn't be terrible.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But
Yep.
you are a Led Zeppelin fan, so it's blasphemy. You know what I mean? You're entitled to your own opinion. I don't mean to correct you or anything like that.
No.
But they're not terrible. I think they're good, and that's why people hate them. Is because they are good at it. But it is blasphemy because like they're literally trying to recreate it. They're not trying to do their own thing. They're not trying to add anything to they're trying to like be them, and that's very strange and weird.
Yeah, and I think like a part of it is like just reading interviews or seeing interviews where they're like, "Oh, Led Zeppelin? I mean, we listened to them, but it was like, come on."
Yeah, no, it's total nonsense. Total nonsense.
Yeah.
What do you think?
yeah,
Bridget?
I mean, same. I haven't yet even honestly listened probably to more than one song. We were raised on Led Zeppelin, and that is a religion, and I can't. Yeah, I'm not interested, really.
I think if they weren't good at what they do, then no one would give a shit. But I think it's because they come so close that it's like what? You know? I don't know.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, they're good at what they're doing. I mean, very obviously they're playing songs that people want to hear. I just heard one of their songs on a movie trailer for, I think it was like the Ford vs Ferrari, that movie with Christian Bale.
Oh yeah. I saw the trailer for that, but I haven't seen it.
And one of their songs was playing in the background. I was like, wow, yeah. So I mean, you're right. Terrible's probably. I just haven't.
Well, I mean, there's probably countless cover bands trying to play Led Zeppelin that no one gives a shit because they aren't good. I think Greg Van Fleet is controversial because they are good at it, but they're just not original and not interesting. And I'm probably not making a whole lot of sense, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
The crazy thing about it too is like it'll be interesting to see like a few years down the line if they develop their own sound, if it carries them anywhere at all.
They have to.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other outcome.
But will that help them at all? Because if you're grasping onto having the Zeppelin sound as your calling card, and you stray away from that, do you have enough? Especially in a world where like rock's going away, is there enough there to latch onto to even, make a career out of it?
And would people like us give it a second chance? Would we circle back around?
Yeah, probably not, right? I mean,
no.
So William motherfucker, I can't do it today. William expertly poured another beer for us. What do we got this time around?
So this is I keep saying, sorry, I just gotta look.
No,
Crooked Kilt Scotch Ale. You know, there's like a chain of Irish pubs called Tilted Kilt, and it's like, this is Crooked Kilt Scotch Ale. So as William said, I think it's like 9.
It's close to 10%.
Yeah,
I think it's like
close to
9.7, 9.8. Yeah.
So
guys, thank you again for sharing.
Yeah, thank you so
of
much,
course.
guys. Cheers again.
Of course.
Wow.
Cheers.
So I've had this before. This is one of the beers I had. So my wife, her family is off the boat Scottish. So anytime there's a Scotch ale, it's like a go-to mandatory thing.
Hook up the IV.
Fuck, it's nice. It's got a little bit of like chocolate to it.
Yeah, I really like this one. We went last weekend.
Again, I feel like very similar to the IPA. It has a taste, and then it's gone. Like it's crisp. Again, it's not thick. It doesn't really sit in your mouth.
I think that a good brewery has a signature that you can almost taste throughout all of their beers. And I definitely get it's so funny too because you couldn't have different style beers, right? But I still, like, that mouthfeel is still there. That character still is persistent. It's impressive.
It's malty, it's heavy, it's fucking delicious though.
Yeah.
I'm glad we let that sit out.
Yeah, that's a perfect temperature.
That was a good call.
Oh, fuck, that's good.
That's yummy.
Thanks, guys.
Of course.
Man.
Thanks.
Our pleasure.
Jim
Yeah,
Hilligan.
thanks for having
Y'all
me.
are sweethearts.
Yeah.
So, we talked a little bit about Cattle Decapitation. Do we want to jump into the album?
Yeah, let's do it. So this is the 8th full length from these guys. Amongst, like, a shitload of EPs and random releases. Last year we did a compilation of B-sides and deleted tracks spanning their career, which was interesting because, like I said, if you go back, you get those straight grindcore songs and then you contrast them to what, like, this has, and it's fucking crazy. So
have you guys been to San Diego?
No.
So these guys are out of San Diego. I want to go so bad. Like, I feel like there's music scene there. The brewery scene is unbelievable there, Southern California. Like, I have like 10,000 reasons I want to go to San Diego.
I've always heard that the climate there is perfect. Like, people with the temperature.
Yeah, like, I don't think they have a bad month all year.
Is it big for that particular genre as far as the bands that are coming out of San Diego?
There are a few metal bands. I'm not even sure I can remember exactly what they are, but the city San Diego is in. There's a small part of my brain that's stored that away. There are a handful of bands.
San Diego.
That I want to go check out. And then the brewery scene in San Diego is crazy, amazing.
I feel that way about Savannah.
Oh,
I want to
yeah,
make
like
a pilgrimage to Savannah, Georgia.
it's awesome.
Savannah's awesome.
So cool.
Alex
Bands.
is a big fan of the music coming from this great state of Georgia.
Me
Yeah,
too.
huge.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
Atlantis. Both the hip hop and the prog metal scene.
Absolutely.
What a combo. What a combination.
We are going to talk about other genres of music before you guys hit the road here.
Okay,
So
Definitely.
cool.
keep that in mind as well.
Awesome.
So we start out with Anthropogenic and Transmission. Here we go with another intro track. See, this has been the year that has, like, worn me out on intro tracks. I'm a little bit over it. I'd like a little bit more of a straightforward start.
Like man.
Like man.
That was fucking
Like,
crazy.
No intro. Just
That was great, and
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you guys called it out on your last episode. 'cause I
fuck
was
you
like,
and your intro.
wow.
Yeah.
Here's black metal.
Right. They're fine. There's nothing wrong with doing it, and like in a world where like it's so fucking saturated all the time, like you're either gonna get it or you're not gonna get it. But I'm a little bit fucking over it. So
Okay, so spoilers if you haven't heard the album, all of our millions of listeners. This is not a normal album. This is essentially what I'm going to call an opera we
Okay.
are getting into here. This is very much not necessarily telling a narrative in terms of your understanding of a story, but
conceptual.
it's taking you through an entire process. So an intro track is very necessary here for this album.
Agreed.
I actually loved how Mayhem was like absolutely gives no shits
Right.
and just right in your face. That was one of my favorite things about that album, actually. But I also, does anyone else want to talk about that opening intro there?
German?
Yeah, we were
There
trying
was-
to figure that out.
Was
I
it?
thought-
I
I
don't
thought it was
think- I don't-
German.
It doesn't sound German to me.
Didn't sound German to you?
Maybe I wasn't listening close enough.
Through
But
a couple. Honestly, I think it was going through a couple different languages.
Okay.
Because William was like, "Is this German?" We listened to it. It was like, kind of sounds like it, and then it switched to
Something
almost
else.
something Korean, like maybe Korean. So I think I wonder if they were saying like the same sentence in different.
it's a global
Languages.
process, like
Yeah.
the climate catastrophe
Yep.
influences us all. So the album's called Death Atlas, which is considering the entire planet. Maybe that's where they were going there.
That's what I was thinking, but
We're like literature majors here.
pulling it apart.
The genocide. Or the geocide. Excuse me. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Caught myself there. At least I enunciated and pronounced everything correctly.
Well, we definitely
I
don't
might have
wanna-
been wrong, but I pronounced it correctly.
Dude, for as absolutely unbelievable as the drummer is here, David McGraw, if I saw this person in person, I wouldn't know what to say to him. The drumming performance on his entire album is otherworldly. But anyways, my point here, for as crazy and technical as he is on this album, I admire the fact that he starts out his percussive clinic here with just a single floor tom hit. The album's the album started with the intro, right? But this track that they really go into the full death metal, he just starts with a single floor tom hit, just doom, and then just goes into it. And I was like, man, that's genius. Sometimes it's just the basics, the simplicity that really does it for me. And I appreciated the hell out of that. Just one tom hit was like the best thing ever.
Right on. So what I noticed about this record is that they've kind of sectioned off the death vocals and the goblin vocals stylistically, consistently throughout the album. Like, the goblin vocals are going to do this kind of like progressive, lighter tone thing, and the death growls are going to do the death growls for the more death-centric riffs.
Yeah, it felt like a back and forth.
Yeah.
It felt like a conversation in a way. And this is coming from, so kind of back to me never having, I mean, of course I knew of Decapitation, but I hadn't listened to their previous albums. And so I kind of took that and ran with it, in that I didn't read any other reviews. I just listened to the album and wrote down what I thought. So it's sort of like coming from this fresh place, having never heard him go back and forth like that on the vocals. And I was blown away, obviously, but then the way, like what you're saying, the way they sectioned it off and made those decisions was incredible throughout the whole thing. I really, really love that.
Right. These goblin vocals are kind of a newer thing for these guys.
Okay.
So I think they're still trying to figure out how it sits in with the music. And this album is extremely sectioned off in terms of who's allowed to do what parts. And I really feel like you would get a kick out of the more Devin Townsend-centric goblin sections. Like, it feels to me like a direct pull off of a Project album.
I think he definitely has two different voices for two different characters here, to put it another way. But he I mean, if you really want to break it down, I almost feel like there's you could even take his sort of grindcore death metal side and is what Alex is actually, outside of the word goblin, you've in the past you've called it death metal leprechaun, and so that's sort of what I always call it. And our good buddy Christian, from the lead vocalist of Blood Red Throne, who has given us a shout out and commented on our review of their album. Fucking love that guy. He sort of does a relatively similar thing and is equally as brilliant at what they do, at what he does. But it adds layers of complexity to this thing, where like if you're over and over and over, I make fun of the guy from Immolation, who's great at his brutal death metal growls, but he has one gear and that's all you get, and he's great at it, but it's repetitive, right? And especially after 7 or 8 albums or whatever it is that they've done. But sorry to bring it back here, he can do Travis Ryan from Decapitation. I mean, he's got no limits at what he can do. I mean, he's in no box at all. He can tell a story using different characters. Yeah. He can sort of take us on this adventure. It's stupendous. I'm blown away, and I thought it was crazy good on Anthropocene Extinction. Is that the name of it?
Yep.
In 2015, and he's even better here. It's like, oh my god.
See, I like that last record a little bit better than this one. No spoilers or anything, but I think it was a little bit more balanced on that one. I feel like it's so black and white on this record in terms of the division. So
his death metal leprechaun side, he's hitting notes.
Yeah.
I mean, he can harmonize with the guitar players.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, there's not a lot of people in brutal death metal that can do that. I mean, it's unbelievable. It opens you up to so many possibilities.
Before we move on to the next track, we get a really shreddy solo on this song, and these are dispersed throughout the record really evenly and really nicely, so they're not all in your fucking face the entire time, and I really fucking like that we get one of these right off the bat going in this first track.
It has one of my favorite lyric lines. This one.
Would you care to share?
Can I say it?
You can say
There's
anything.
no problem with that, right?
No, go for it.
As long as I don't sing it.
You can sing it.
Can you do a goblin voice for us, Bridge?
See, I think it's more witchy. I think it has a.
Ooh, I like
there's
that.
a feminine.
Okay. Can you do the rest of the podcast in the voice? Because that'd be tremendous.
Absolutely not. Nobody says hapless mortals shit birthed on a human altered planet. It's fucking amazing.
There's lyrical gold sprinkled throughout.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it sounds silly coming from such brutal music, but it's almost Shakespearean. And I mean that with sincerity. I'm not making a joke. He's unbelievably eloquent in these lyrics. It's amazing.
In the decision making of the voice style for what lines, I wonder, because it is so in the witchy goblin leprechaun.
Make sure you include all 3 every time you describe it.
I think I need an acronym there, but you can hear. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a lot of trouble understanding.
That to me was one of the standout things about this album, and one thing that I was like, this is so cool, is that like the death metal vocals or the witchy goblin leprechaun it's like I can understand what he's saying. And there's a lot of death metal where, like, a lot of music that I listen to, and my wife's always like, do you even know what they're saying? I have no idea what they're saying.
And it doesn't matter.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so cool. In all of those styles, it's very discernible what he's saying, what he's talking about, and I absolutely love that on this album. Yeah.
Hell yeah. So we move into Be Still, Our Bleeding Hearts. We start with a more straightforward death riff going into it. Goblin vocals come back for that proggy section. We get the clear, definitive, hey, yeah, that's how this record's going to go, is we're going to do death growls and we're going to do proggy stuff, and they're going to be separate the whole time, and that's pretty much the way it's going to be. Really nice, grindy bridge here. That, like, those little artifacts, like I said, like, they started out straight grindcore. So those little artifacts that get dropped in there every once in a while are really nice little touch that I fucking adore. How about that?
Yeah.
Vulturous.
Thank you.
Are you serious? You weren't going to pronounce it vulturous? How else would you see? How else would you even say that?
Voluptuous.
Yeah, that's how I would have done it.
These vocals are voluptuous.
Thank you.
So fast, so wicked. Scream to the end is dope. That's what I said.
I like it. I had slow starter with cool core breaks. You get the proggy stuff. Get some black. The little black touches that you get with the drums really add some nice texture to this record. Where, like, you get so much in every one of these songs, and they like to really touch on giving you the death, the prog, a little bit of core, and a little bit of black, and just that whole combination throughout is magnifique.
I think for me, I've already touched on it, the standouts on not only this album, but for what the Cattle Decapitation project is the vocalist and the drummer. But man, there's a section where the guitars are harmonizing, and it's almost like it's a solo, but they're both playing.
Yep.
Oh, and it's so awesome. Like, those guys have mad chops. And I probably won't mention them again for the rest of the album just because it's so dominated with the vocalist and the drummers, but they are awesome, especially on that track. That one section that lasts for about 60 seconds, I would say.
Quick question. Is this one of the first albums where they have two guitar players? Because I thought I heard that, like, they only had one guitar player earlier, and I don't know if it was on this album that they had.
I think we're 4 albums into that.
Of 2 guitars? Okay.
I don't.
So I didn't know if that was a change as far as, like, the harmonized solos, or if that was something different.
I do know that there are 2 new members to the band for this album.
Oh, okay.
Including a bass player and a guitar player. So, but I don't know how long they've had the 2 guitars.
I'm trying on the fly. I'm working on
Okay.
it. But it's gonna happen.
How did you guys feel about those tracks, The Great Dying, where it sort of breaks things up and you have the voice come back and sort of describe the climate catastrophe? And
like what you were saying on the intro track, I mean, to me, it makes this whole thing like it makes it like a film, and instead of coming back to tracks, like, I come back to listen to this album in its entirety, and I love the fact the intro track and those interludes, man, it ties it to, like, I love it.
It gives it a feel like it's a.
That's why I almost call this like an opera. It's very much telling you this dramatic story, and I think for me this album gets better the later it gets. The later tracks are my favorite parts of the album.
Sure.
Yep.
And it's very much building and building and building. And for a Cattle Decapitation record, it's almost a slow start. I mean, for what the type of music that they played, there's no such thing as a slow start. But I think you take my point, though.
It's the first album with 2 active guitarists.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. So,
yeah.
There you go.
Did not know that.
Probably not the first with layering and harmonization.
Right.
The Great Dying, we get another interlude track here where we kind of explain that humanity's
In deep shit.
yeah.
I haven't heard.
Like,
Wait,
in
what?
case you were clear what this album was about.
Self-inflicted detriment of the planet. So, continuing the story, as it were.
One day closer.
On a nice happy note, let's move on.
One day closer to the end of the world. I really had to stuff that name into my notes.
Yeah, me too.
Oh,
Went right
nice.
Nice,
Right together.
yeah.
See that?
onto the
No
sea.
space. I like
The
it.
next
I
page.
really like these guitar fucking layouts. Yeah, I like those. Those are cool.
Yeah.
Those are fun.
I mean, I'm much more familiar with Gojira, and this really,
Yeah.
I felt I had warm, fuzzy Gojira feelings.
I alluded to, what was the band that had the Gojira slides that I was calling those? And you were like, well, Gojira's not the only one that does those. And I avoided doing that on purpose, but thank you so much for bringing that.
Yeah, for the life of me, I don't remember.
Oh, who the
We've
fuck had the
reviewed a
Gojira
couple
slides?
albums. I don't remember.
That's driving me nuts. I flat out called them Gojira slides,
Yeah.
and Adam took umbrage to that. So
Well, I even said, because again, hadn't listened to Cattle Decapitation, and I kept thinking like Gojira, but I was like, maybe Gojira sounds like them. I don't know who came first.
I think. Sorry, I'm gonna cut you off real quick.
Go ahead.
On that track number 6 there, when they get closer to the end of the world, that's where you sort of get Travis's first memorable goblin leprechaun phrase there. One day we will all mean nothing. And I am going to do some goblin leprechauns here later in some of the tracks, but I'm not going to do that one because it's a little bit long and lengthy, and I don't want to strain myself.
it wants to keep that voice pristine.
I just wanted to like, that was the first standout where I was like, this is what I signed up for. Like, and like we said, like, he's got characters, man. Like, he's in no box. He can do anything. It's so amazing.
What's fun here too is, like, we talked about how he can do vocal range with the goblin vocals, no problem. But you get some death growl like range on this one too. He does a little bit of singing with the growls, which is tremendous. You get a little bit of. I really fucking like when these guys do black metal stuff. Like, I think that's a flavor that needs to be brought in a whole lot more, because I think they do it really, really well, and that goblin voice lends itself really nicely to that style. Yeah. Cool track. Bring Back the Plague.
Bring it back.
So
Your favorite?
I think it's my favorite.
this was a single. Was this the first one that they released?
No, I think One Day Closer was the first one, and then this was
Okay.
like the second one that they dropped.
It's a fucking fun head nodder. Like, for as dark as the subject matter it is, this is a really, really fun track to really just kind of like.
Yeah, if they were ever gonna make like a bright, cheery sounding track, this kind of would be the one.
Bring back,
but it's
the
like the
summer
darkest thing ever.
Yeah.
Some really cool, like, Middle Eastern riffs going on here. I usually lump this in with like an Egyptian sound, but like I don't like kind of stereotyping that. But
Egyptian metal.
it's a common thing that gets lumped in. Tool does it sometimes. Like, it's a trope that gets used.
If you want to hear Egyptian metal, you got to check out Nile.
Nile.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's very, very tastefully done.
And yeah, they're like scholars in that as far as like the history, and we don't have to go down that
Yeah,
rabbit hole, but
it goes in depth.
Yeah.
Their lyrics and everything. It's very, very of that time.
I opened for Nile once. I'm just gonna throw
Oh,
that
you
out there.
Ooh.
That's
Impressed.
The list is long, actually. Though, very notable bands that he's opened for.
Doesn't mean anything, but it's fun to say. Absolute Destitute. That's fun to say. I hadn't said that out loud until just now. I like that. Slow and chuggy. We'll bring back the black and blasty stuff. Deathy riffage. There's a spoken word dual vocal section in this one. That's really nice. This is where we combine the two. You get the goblins and the deaths together, and it's a nice pairing. I like it. We move on to The Great Dying 2, and it's like a death version of the other two little interludes. Like, we've been building towards more despair and doom, and that's
It started out with a warning,
yeah.
and now it's happening.
Finish them. You get the two vocals trading sections before you get a speedy, like, sink your teeth into vocal or riff section. Fun track. At this point, like, it's a really lengthy record. There's a lot going on. It's kind of, it's not formulaic, but there's definitely like a consistency to how they're doing these songs. So by this point, I'm starting to get, like, not fatigued, but a little bit like, I know what I'm expecting from each of these tracks. So that's notable. We go to page 2 because it's a long fucking record.
For the track Finish Them, very short track, like not even 3 minutes. Holy shit, that had me like death metal moshing, sitting at my desk. Ridiculous banger of a track, like didn't kind of hit me out of nowhere. Kind of no frills, but just like crazy good, well written riffs. Like it just had me banging like crazy. And I feel like that is, I mean, they sort of structure-wise, and Al always goes into the structure once we finish going track by track. Al's the structure genius here at Lumberslayer and Friends. But
you're a nice guy.
Aside from that, for me, Finish Them was like the real transition into my favorite part of the record. That brings us into the next track. But I think...
Well, it's funny because I was going to say, with all disrespect, sir...
With all disrespect, is without a doubt
this is my turning
personal
point.
highlight.
Yeah, I think the structure gets interesting here.
Yep.
Yeah, because we're going black right out of the back, which is like complete contrast to the last song, and I liked that change up. I was ready for it. I needed it, and there it was. You get some proggy grind stuff going on in this track. To me, the juxtaposition between these two songs like was what I needed. Because I just mentioned that, like that was where I was getting a little bit fatigued. This is where I get pulled right the fuck back in. So I like this track a lot.
Yeah, I did too. This was one of my favorites.
Time's Cruel Curtain. There's a lot of fun title track or track titles to say here.
Awesome
Absolutely.
track titles, yeah.
Really catchy intro here. Drums kick in and it slows down, and then you get these deathy riffs. And you get like the slow, really sad midsection. Like the sorrow on this track is like.
I thought this was the end.
Yeah.
Like I was sure that this song was the end. I mean, it felt really.
I think if Cattle Decapitation was ever going to make a ballad, this was it. Just in terms of the. If there was ever going to be like a love song that was dark, that's their brand, their version of a ballad.
Right on. What's really cool is they bring back the intro riff and they just throw blast beats over top of it. The drums really kind of like drive what goes on with the riffage in this one. And then we're gonna fade it right into. I can't read my own fucking writing.
The unerasable
Past. There you go. Thank you very much. Which is just like a straightforward funeral song. Like this is your eulogy for the planet, as you've been building up to. So.
Was there speaking in this one?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Because while I didn't read any other reviews, I did read that the drummer from Fish. That's him.
Oh no shit.
Yeah.
I did
Shout
not know
out to
that.
Ben Wilson.
Yeah, Benny Wilson.
There you go.
I have to guilt him into listening to the podcast.
There you go.
Ugh. I can't stand Fish. If I would have read that first, I wouldn't have listened to the album, and I'd just be sitting here nodding. But I mean, it wasn't like. Apparently, he's a really big fan.
Yeah,
Of
I
Cattle
read
Decapitation.
I saw an interview and they
Yeah.
were like, we heard he was a fan, and so we asked him. It's like, wow, that's
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
Way to
random.
bring the research.
fact.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's fun. I didn't have that.
Had no idea.
Yeah. And then we're gonna close out with the title track. Yeah. And it really plows for the first minute and a half or so, and then goes to the sad riffage. We get a little bit of black. Drops out to a distant soundscape, and like this epic, like let down, sad riff to kind of close it out. Nice way to end it. Like if you're gonna wrap up a story and kind of conclude,
Destroy the planet.
right? Like
That's
that's the way you do it.
Yeah.
We have a number of things going on here. So as it fades out, you have, I think, I would assume it's Travis doing the clean vocals. And there's also female vocals in there as well. So I'm not sure who that is or
Your mom,
Mother.
classic.
Unbelievably epic album. Like, this fucks up my year because I had this nice, neat, already laid out thing, and it's like, wow, this belongs close to the top. So we'll see how that pans out on the next couple of weeks as I finalize that thing. But holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. As a new listener to Cattle Decapitation, it was man, from front to back, like, I would listen to this album again easily, front to back. It actually provides a really nice contrast to the album we reviewed before, where it felt like there was a lot of fat that could be trimmed. This one, it was amazing getting to the end of a song and be like, that was 3 minutes? Like, that felt like it could have been 8 minutes. And there was so much. And I'm not a big grind guy. Like, I don't really like the really fast paced blasting all the time. This, man, held my attention from beginning to end. Really nice variants throughout the album. The structure was incredible. I
it was an opera. I love
awesome.
that. I love that you said that. It's front to back. Just
I am dying to hear your breakdown of the structure for one, and I'm honestly shocked that this didn't dethrone Anthropocene Extinction, because
It didn't. I think I was so thrown off. So just to give you guys the background, Cal Decap's been around fucking forever, and it's been like, they put out this video for a track called Forced Gender Reassignment a while ago, and it was just like this shock fucking horror film of a music video that really got a lot of love and attention. It's scary as shit. It's fucking great. It's exactly what you think it is. It's a guy traps 2 people in a basement and gives them forced gender reassignment. It's crazy.
Wow.
Human Centipede.
Yeah, it very much gives you kind of those vibes. And they've always been very shock, horror, grindcore. Like, they're vegans, and they've been about very much like humanity is shit and whatnot. And that's fine, but it hadn't really been my cup of tea, and grindcore is not my cup of tea either. So, like, it's been a band for the most part that I've just kind of ignored. And on the last record, I don't know why, but I went to the record store and I saw it, and I'm like, you know what? Give it a shot. Why not? And was just absolutely mind blown at how good it was.
it is great. It's awesome.
So what I find too is when I find those first introduction to a band records, it kind of sticks with me, and it's hard to dethrone them. So there's a little bit of bias here in terms of topping a record. So
That's
That's
beautiful.
understandable.
this is an easy second place,
That's for sure.
but it's not a dethroner. So structure wise, it's hard to argue when you're setting up a narrative that, like, this is the way you're going to lay it out, and it's fine. Again, just in terms of being blown out by intro tracks and interludes, I'm just a little bit over it, and I think that's just more of a, like, it's just been this year. This year has been insane for pickups for us. Like, I don't remember a year where I've been so overwhelmed by how much quality has been available. Like, this year's been great. I don't know how it's been for you guys, but this year in particular has been stupendous. So this is a great fucking album amongst several great fucking albums, and it's really gonna be hard to, end of the year we do our top lists. I don't know, how do you guys do that?
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
So
I used to send that on mine.
did you?
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember, I don't know if it was 2015 or 2016, I posted, like, for the first time on my Instagram, like, my list of favorite albums after going over it with you. Being like, hey, I wonder if Brigitte will comment on this if I post it. So I posted it. It's like 15 minutes later, like, whoa, this is fucking crazy, you know? Yes.
That's something we talked about. Like, we need a little bit. We got 2 weeks before the next one.
Yeah.
Maybe we can reach out and we can get perennial guests or frequent guests to give us top lists, and we can drop them in. That'd be cool. Would you guys be into that?
Totally.
Oh my god.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Because we could probably, like, you could probably record it on your phone, and we could probably loop it in
Okay.
real quick
Yeah,
if you guys are down.
definitely.
That would be
Sure.
super cool. That's a great idea.
That's a cool idea.
That would be
I'll tell you to be better than last year. Last year, we sat here and got shit faced.
We did.
And just went back and forth. What was your number 12? Well, I gotta tell you. and that was it. it was fun for us, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the best episode we could have put out there. And by the end, I was repeating myself. It was silly.
That was fun. I went fucking crazy. We did bombers of, here's the fun thing. I like heavier, darker stuff, so I like your porters and your stouts and whatnot. Adam's more of a IPA guy in general.
You and I.
Yeah, there you go. So for last year when we do our top 10, I took Adam's hometowns and I just got bombers of imperial stouts.
There was nothing under like 11%. It was yeah.
we just got toasty. It was fun.
Wow.
It was really fun.
Like the windows
sounds like
steamed up in here.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, it's an interesting, and I'm so thankful for this opportunity to be on here because it's actually, I mean, you guys talked about it a little bit in the last episode about how life this year happened to you both, and it takes away from your time from listening, and I really felt like that's how this year was for me. And so I mean, I would say the last month I have done some pretty intense research and re-listening to things and going back and thinking about things to prepare myself to be on this, almost as if it was an exam. But it's been a great opportunity to take the time and make the time to listen to things that I didn't have time to from the rest of the year, because I got married, we moved, it was a big one. So
Yeah, let's make a difference. Big time. So it's fun stuff. So Cattle Decap's a pickup for me.
oh yeah,
Just throwing that out there.
He's picking it up.
I'm picking it up.
Picking it up.
It's yeah, I don't know where the fuck it's gonna fit in the top list. Top list is gonna be hard.
I was gonna say on your shelf, yeah, because I don't see any space.
This fucks up everything for me, man. It was son of a bitch.
Mayhem messed me up on
Did
my
it?
list for sure.
Dude, Norway crushed 2019.
Oh.
Norway's half the list, bro.
Oh, agreed. Yeah. And in areas that I didn't think they were gonna get, like the Monolord album.
Dude, you
I
raved to me.
can't stop listening to that. And then the other band, and I think I might be pronouncing it wrong, but Savor it's got the
Umlaut?
umlaut. Yeah, that band just fucking killed it.
Did you guys hear the new Baroness this year?
Yeah.
It was a dud, right?
Dude, for the first time, I was like, the vocals are driving me nuts. This is annoying.
You couldn't hear the guitars.
Yeah,
which is a problem.
Bass was way over the
terrible.
fucking top, and
Yeah, it had issues.
I was not a fan. Yeah, not a fan.
Man, it's tragedy too, because Purple had some of the most beautiful written songs on there, and I think there was a lot of beautiful moments on the newer one too. But
I mean, we've been Baroness fans from inception. I mean,
Yeah. Well-
we've seen them a whole lot.
You gave me credit earlier. You're the reason I really got into Baroness. I mean, when you were in Chicago, I remember we ended up seeing them. Shit, I forget where we saw them. That was an awesome concert. You really got me hooked on them, and yeah, absolutely love
we saw them
them.
with Torch, didn't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Really good.
man, I could not get gave it multiple listens, and the third or fourth time I couldn't even make it through the album.
Yeah.
I was I turned it off. I was like, I just want to listen to something else. It
Yeah.
just wasn't a
really
fan.
too bad.
Yeah.
I was excited for that.
Mm.
it's fine. There was a lot of other shit that came out that was fucking fantastic.
Oh
So
my gosh. Yeah.
I want to get back to beer for a moment, if you guys don't mind. And I have some very exciting news to share with you, Brigitte. So I know that you took a little brewery tour through New England. Was that last year?
Yeah, last fall.
And you gave me a handful of recommendations. Turns out, Lumberslayer and I, along with two other cousins of ours, we are going to head over to New England in April and do the tour. Awesome. And so I wanted to round out the list of recommendations and talk about a couple of the things that you had already told me about. So here's the rough idea of where we're going to go. First stop, we need to make our way east. So our first stop is actually going to be in Rochester, New York.
Okay.
And in Rochester and I actually didn't know this until recently, other half brewing company, which is in Brooklyn, they have a Rochester location. So that's a convenient stop for us to stop and take a breather and crash. So extremely thrilled about that in terms of IPAs. Well, I mean, if you're going to New England, it's going to be IPA heavy, obviously. So our first stop is in Rochester, and then the following morning we're going to head toward Massachusetts. And we are planning on hitting up Treehouse, as one does when you're in that neck of the woods, and then head toward Boston. From Boston, we are heading north into Maine, stopping in Portland, which I know is one of your favorite spots.
Yeah.
And then the following day, shooting back to the west toward Burlington, Vermont, staying the night there, and then home. So I know that one of the most interesting takeaways from when you told me when you were in that neck of the woods was there was a brewery called, if I'm not mistaken, Earth Eagle. So tell me about Earth Eagle. So they don't put hops in their beer, and I was like offended.
Yeah, you really were. I was like, oh shit, this guy's mad at me. Just telling him about it.
That was like ultra intriguing. I've never heard of anyone not putting hops in beer.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I wish I had more research or more to tell you. I would actually love to read more about it, and I think they had a book there that the woman handed me when I asked her. But there's a Bavarian, a very old Bavarian method that sort of the idea is just using whatever's growing at any given time. So that's what they do. And
wow.
It was, and it feels like so long ago. I really wish I could like remember specific stuff that I tasted there, because I did I think I tasted something and then I ended up doing a whole flight because everything was just so funky and so interesting, and I knew that I wasn't going to get it anywhere because they don't distribute unless something's changed in the last year. It's a pretty small operation. I was blown away. It was so interesting.
That's gonna have to go on the list.
Yeah,
we're gonna
for
have
sure.
to check that out. Just
Portsmouth is an interesting place. I think it's definitely worth a stop. I mean, the food there, like, you're just not hard up for great food in that part of the country, and Portsmouth definitely impresses. I would spend much more time in Portland. I think there's a lot more to see and do there, but Earth Eagle, I would be so happy if you made it there.
Oh, yeah. It's on the list.
Well, I feel like if you're not gonna put hops in your beer, you have to do like wild yeast strains in order to like round out the beer. I mean, even in Michigan, we have like artisan breweries that do like wild, crazy, experimental things like that. But I've got to check that out. Like, that piqued my interest immediately. Like, being as big of an IPA fan as I am, I kid about the being offended by the no hops thing, but like, that just like that really sparks the interest there. I gotta experience that.
Yeah. In fact, if you could figure out, like, they had a book behind the bar that the woman handed to me. She kind of gave me the short and brief answer about how they do what they do, but then she handed me a book because she had to go serve someone else some beer. And I was like, oh, okay, this will explain it. And then I probably got a little drunk and forgot. But, I really would love to learn actually a bit more about it. It was really interesting. And I love the product. Like,
Right on.
it was incredible.
There was a craft beer bar that you told me about too, which I think was up in Portland.
Yep, definitely.
I don't think I wrote that one down.
I can get it for you.
That's gonna go on the list too, though.
Yep, can't miss that one. That was insane. It was
like a French name or something.
Man.
You remember it fondly?
Well,
Brigitte?
so William was making fun of me when he saw my notes when he came yesterday, and he looked at my notebook, and I was like, well, this is what happens when you have concussions. My biggest fear was coming here to sit down at this podcast and then completely blanking on every name or every, memory. So I have to have it.
It happens. I can't speak English, so you at least got that going for it. I like that everything's color-coded. So
Oh, always, yeah.
that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If nothing else.
Incredible.
I just jot down chicken scratch and then try and read it when I'm trying to do a nice review of something and make Adam pronounce things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
You're
really
doing just
excited that you guys are going on that trip. That's really cool.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
I mean, we do have a set agenda. We do have a list of places that we're going to hit, but like, as we all do on a road trip, we're going to find diamonds in the rough, and it's going to be like, hey, let's check this out. Hey, let's check this out. The real trick will be like, can we stay like focused and not get way out of control, So that's a challenge too. But the good thing is a lot of places they are canning now, so we can grab a 4-pack, bring that home. We don't have to drink it while you're there.
Right.
I mean, otherwise it's like every place you go to, it's like, do you guys have rooms? Like, can I crash? Like, it's like, how else am I going to survive? So, looking super forward to that. I've been meaning to get to that part of the country, specifically for beer for a long, long time. So, and to be able to experience it with my cousins is huge. So,
Aww. Yeah, it's a sweetheart. I like that guy. I hang out with him. I keep him around.
Yeah. Definitely. Do you want to talk about the non-metal, or I'm taking over your job as the moderator?
well, I definitely have closely followed you on social media for a long time, and you don't only attend metal shows; you attend shows of like literally every kind. So, what do you like? What do you dislike? What are some of the standouts? Let's focus on Detroit since you've been back home. So, I mean, I've seen a bunch of hip hop on there. I've seen some indie rock. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
What's the local scene looking like?
Really exciting.
It is
so cool. So we kind of launched into I think it was the first weekend we were here. I bought tickets for my husband to see Massive Attack, which I'm not sure if you're...
I'm familiar.
Yeah. He had never seen them live. I'd only seen them at an outdoor festival. It was for his birthday, and it was pretty epic. And the Masonic Temple is one of my favorite venues, for sure. We were just there last night for a podcast.
Nice.
So that was a great show. That was a big show. That was a very production, really clean. It almost reminded me in a way. So 4 weeks ago, I drove to Toronto, and then William, my other brother, flew up from Mexico, and William's wife, the four of us all went and saw Tool.
Nice.
And those two shows kind of fall together in this like very clean, just a wonderful experience of watching musicians do something in, if not perfect, very close to manner. Like just incredible to see. And then on a completely on the other end of the spectrum, very like raw, gritty, dirty sort of way, I went and saw I think it was probably from a Chicago connection. So I lived in Chicago for 8 years, did my undergrad there. I think it was through like a social media Chicago connection. This woman and her band called The Hide started coming up on my radar, and I sort of fell into this whole, I mean, I'm very, anytime a female comes on the scene, especially in metal, I'm really interested. I love supporting that. And I'm all about it. But Hyde is much more on the very, very dark, but very industrial sound, and very performative. And I was really intrigued. Heather Gable is the woman, and she makes some amazing art. The whole it's an experience. So I was super excited because she played at Smalls in Hamtramck, which again, it was like one of the first weeks we were here. I knew right away it was not something I was going to ask my husband or a new friend to come with me. It was going to be solo, and that was like, when I go through the list of shows that I've seen this year, that stands out so much in so many different ways. And I probably think about it at least once a day. Like it's wild.
Right.
And then I gotta say, like, so my husband is West Indian. He's from St. Lucia. Lived in New York Brooklyn for 25 years, and is now in Detroit, and is a hip hop head, like Wu-Tang, but also has this deep reverence for reggae, dancehall reggae, and it kind of his roots there.
Oh.
And so I've been influenced by that a lot. I listen to a lot of hip hop by association and also of my own free will. But we went to, I think probably what you're referring to on social media that I was blown away by. We went to Marble Bar. It was a guy from Bedside, a guy from Chicago, Fillmore Green, standout, and then probably 7 other artists from Detroit. It was one of the best, one of the best shows I've seen all year. The crowd was amazing. Everyone was decked in Detroit gear. Like, it was so proud and so respectful. And the vibe was it was amazing. I had such a great time. So yeah, I love seeing everything.
Oh yeah.
I feel like Detroit is like alive and well, like big time. Grassroots. We get national shows coming through. Like times are pretty good. We have a shit president, but times are pretty good, you know.
In Detroit, and it's happening at a vibration that not everyone's aware of yet, which is cool because you get to pay $12 to see this. You know, I'm going to go see Watain on Tuesday.
Nice.
At Majestic Theater. And it's not so, coming from New York felt, you know, there's all this pressure and stress to keep up, you know, financially. It's an incredibly expensive place to live. And so while everybody not living in New York likes to talk about all the things you could be doing in New York, it's not accessible when you're living there for everyone.
Sure.
And that's coming from a privileged perspective. So, you know, the rest of the population, I don't know how they feel, but it was almost overwhelming to me. Like, I could focus on St. Vitus and be like, who's coming through St. Vitus? But as far as live music everywhere in the city, it was really difficult. You know, it just felt difficult to keep up with. And at the end of the day, it just took so much effort to go back out, to pay this money, to do this. And in Detroit, it's so much simpler. And it's really great. I love it.
You should share like a Google Calendar with me.
Okay.
And like put what shows you're gonna go to.
Definitely.
And I like pick 1 or 2 per month and try to meet you for a beer or whatever. There's so many things I want to do and see, and I don't want to be 100% on the outside looking in, and it's hard. But that's what's cool about having friends and making, you know, acquaintances is getting out there and experiencing it. I am super. Like my little niche is internet research. I will sift through and find, like, no matter where you're located in the world, I'll find you. One of our favorite albums from 2017 is this like progressive metal band out of like Romania or something that I just happened to stumble across, and it was fantastic, called The 13th Son.
Oh yeah.
And but it's almost like that's my little cup of tea, but it's because it's convenient. What I want to do is get out into more of the local scene. And you're an awesome person to know for that, because you seem to be very active at seeking those things out. So that's just super cool influence to have.
She's amazing at that sort of stuff.
The other, I just remembered the other show, and it was cool because I saw them and then William saw them the next night, but Russian Circles played with Windhand opening, and I'm a huge Windhand fan.
Yeah, that's a nice
I
combo.
love Dorothea. And that was at L Club. I don't know if you've ever been there, but that was a pretty fun venue, and she sounded great. Russian Circle's sounding great, of course. Too,
Russian
but
Circle's fucking
always
fantastic.
do. Yeah.
Russian Circle, they're that newest album. I didn't think they could get any better. And holy
Oh my
fuck,
god,
man.
yeah.
I went to school at Northern Michigan, up in the Upper Peninsula, and they came in my, I think, sophomore year through a snowstorm. They showed up. I think they were like 45 minutes late.
In the Upper Peninsula, I did not see that coming. A snowstorm. Wow.
Oh yeah, I was like Russian Circle. You didn't see Russian. I didn't see Russian Circles coming
On a Tuesday in August, it's a snowstorm.
Right.
Yeah. So they came. That was the first time I saw them on their first album, and I've been obsessed ever since. I have like all their records, and it's funny. I mean, like telling people, it's instrumental, and people are like, okay, well, I won't be able to get into that. Man, you take somebody to see one of those concerts. Like, I've had so many friends go with me to go see them. Like, trust me, they see them. Like, holy shit, man. Like, I play guitar, but I memorize like the drum patterns of those songs. That drummer is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I absolutely love that band.
Yeah, I keep going back and forth. Spoilers, but whether Blood Year is going to be number one for this year or not,
Dude,
it's so
Blood
fucking
Year
good.
is crazy good. Yeah.
And I think they really, on this album in particular, like took, and I don't want to rehash your guys' conversation of what you had before, but I think on this album really focused on what they really enjoyed playing live, and instead of doing the really atmospheric soundtracky stuff, really focused on like great songs that they can play live, great riffs. And I find like this album is so, it's like harder hitting, it's a bit more direct, instead of this like continuous listen that some of their other albums, from beginning to end, also kind of just like a film soundtrack almost. And this one had like so many songs. Like, I cannot wait to see that live. It was so good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Those guys are amazing. It's like they've only gotten better. It's just
Yeah.
Tremendous.
Who would you say, like, if I can ask you guys?
Okay.
I mean, if you could, in the next year, see anyone.
oof. Tribulation.
That's a good answer. See, that's a much more complicated question for me because I don't do a whole lot of shows.
Right.
Like, my biggest problem is, like, crowd-wise, I want there to be a huge crowd, but I have a hard time being around that many people. It just doesn't click well for me. Fuck, that's a great question. Venue plays such a, like, prominent role in that, too, because I've been to so many shit venues that, like, if you're sitting out in the crowd, the energy factor versus the, like, sound quality factor, there needs to be a balance there. Fuck. Torch would be really fun to see. I haven't seen Torch. Oh, man. What a great question. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to leave it right there.
Okay.
But I think if you gave me a little more time, I can come up with something better. But
Okay.
Torch would be fun to see.
Womers?
Man. Shit. I didn't think that question was coming. I was like, oh, it's gonna stop there.
Yeah.
No, shit. Man, I hate to do a rehab, like a band that I've already seen, but I'm having a hard time. Like, living in Toronto now has been so awesome, just because, like, it's the first time. I mean, we grew up in Portland, so it was like, we'd always drive down to Detroit or go see shows in Grand Rapids, but I had to go somewhere else. And like, being in Toronto now, get to see so much. I saw Cobalt last year, and they are, I mean, I absolutely love that band. In fact, the vocalist for Cobalt on the last album, Charlie Fell, his band Lord Mantis, their new album is so good.
William,
I would see them again.
Remind me to give you a hug before you go.
Okay.
Cobalt was one of the...
I fucking love Cobalt.
Oh my god.
William's been talking about Cobalt. William made me listen to Cobalt when we were in Vietnam. Because Vietnam, so like what you were, I mean, it depends on your life situation or whatever. But when we were in Vietnam, we weren't seeing any. I mean, what shows?
Not
we
a
were
lot of
watching?
live shows
There wasn't
coming
a lot
there,
of
yeah.
live shows happening. Although shout out to Hanoi Rock City, they were trying.
That was
But we found a splitter because we rode motorcycles everywhere. We found a splitter for his headphone jack on the iPod. And I have memories of riding up mountains listening to Zoroaster for the first time.
Whoa.
That's pretty epic.
There's some. So Em and I go back and forth trading bands. Like, you gotta check these guys out. You gotta check these guys. Cobalt's one of those bands that like has been a standout for years of an Adam recommendation. That
Yeah, I discovered them.
gotta have it.
Probably around 2015-ish. These are like 3 really, really solid albums.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you listened to his kind of like folky offshoot?
No, but I'm a sucker for anything folk. So
Man's Gin, I think is the name.
Mansplain.
So he
Mansplain.
Eric Wonder, who like he does all of the music for Cobalt, drumming and live he drums.
they're Colorado, right?
Colorado,
Yeah.
yep. And so he's got this offshoot called Man's Gin, which is interesting. Yeah, give that a
Man's
listen.
Gin, got it.
Yeah.
So what I would
obsessed
go
with
see.
them. Love them. Yeah. So Bridget,
No,
Bridget,
see, you did
what
this
would
wrong.
you-
You did this completely wrong. So on the Lumberslayer and Friends podcast, what you do is you pose a question and then you go, "I'll go first."
Yeah, see, that's exactly. See, but now you know. So
Yeah, you fucked up real bad.
What you got, Rich?
I'm super excited because this is like actually happening, but I am a huge Julie Christmas fan. I don't know if you.
I'm not familiar.
Oh, yeah.
you say Julie Christmas?
Julie Christmas.
She did
Off my
like the
radar.
vocals on the last Cult of Luna album, like the
Oh,
Mariner. Like that's all her.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah,
She's
my notes are gonna be full here,
Out
guys.
of
Oh
Brooklyn.
shit, man!
by far one of my favorite female.
Best concert of last year for
Yeah.
sure.
Wow.
Definitely. Oh, definitely.
Dang.
Ooh, because they played the whole album.
Front to
Mariner.
back, Mariner.
Yeah.
Cult of Luna with Julie Christmas.
There's a little thing called Roadburn, which is like a 4-day festival in the Netherlands. I think it's like 2 hours south of Amsterdam in April, and it's not focused on metal. It's just heavy music in general. But like Russian Circles will be there. Brutus is there.
Oh, I love fucking
Hyde
Brutus.
is there.
Brutus.
Yeah.
Badass.
Yeah,
album.
so badass. Elizabeth Colorwheel, who is another person I meant to mention, but I love her shit too. But Julie Christmas is working on a project right now with Laura Parsons from Kylesa.
Uh-huh.
Ooh,
And
this is your guy.
my head just explodes at the thought.
Savannah,
It's so
Georgia.
exciting.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to convince my husband right now, hopefully he's not listening, to loop in our honeymoon so that I can just drive down
man.
from Amsterdam for one day to see
It's gotta happen.
these like 5 people play. Yeah.
Yeah, so like relapse between like 2005 and 2010. That's the magic zone right there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Jalessa, Baroness, Royal Thunder. Who else was out of that?
Zoroaster.
Neurosis,
Black Tusk.
Black Tusk.
I
And
like
then-
these guys.
Yeah, Mastodon.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You guys can come back in anytime you want.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh fuck.
so good.
Can we do we have enough time? Like
We got all the time in the world.
Okay. Like favorite non-metal and maybe like I don't want to spoil anything if you're planning on doing this later, but like favorite non-metal thing that you're either listening to or of this year. that
Sure.
you're-
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah?
We usually take this on to the end of the year stuff, but with you guys, I'm happy
that
to
cool?
do it. Yeah, absolutely. Who's going first?
Not me.
Not you.
I'll go.
Go ahead.
I'll go. I've got two kind of shout outs. First one, Black Pumas.
Oh yeah.
Bought this album.
Bought tickets already.
Bought tickets. They're coming in. They're coming to Toronto in January, and they're coming to Detroit same time,
Yep.
January.
Going to see them with mom and dad.
Really, really interesting band.
I feel like you guys' parents are really fucking cool.
Oh
They're
my
really
god,
rad.
they like the reason that we like the music. I just feel like my parents always like, if you're into music, as long as you're like into it, then we're cool with that. And they've been really supportive of that. Get into the same stuff, like Motown-esque feel. It's two guys. I think they're out of Austin, Texas. I know they're out of Texas, but really cool band. And then other opposite end of the spectrum, Coulter Wall put out a 7-inch that has a couple songs on it, and he is like, I even hate calling it country music just because what people call country music nowadays, but like this guy is out of Saskatchewan, and unbelievable songwriter, like once in a lifetime voice. This guy I think is 28 years old now. You see him, he looks like he could possibly be like 20, 21. He's this tiny guy, and the voice that comes out of him it's unbelievable. An amazing songwriter. No, and
but it's
seen him live
twice
in Canada now, and unbelievable. Like really cool artist, really cool music. So yeah, really into that right now.
Yeah.
What you got, Bridge?
You know, I wasn't even like planning to mention this, but there's a podcast that came out I think it started a couple of months ago. I think there's now 7 episodes. Dolly Parton's America. Completely changed the way I think about Dolly Parton. And it's been really interesting to listen to her music.
Is it with Dolly Parton or is it okay?
Yeah. Some of it is with people that she's influenced, and kind of talks a lot about her songwriting. I mean, she's prolific.
Yeah, very.
Like and then also talking about the time growing up in Appalachia, how actually taboo some of the things were that she was singing about, which is weird because we would never really think of Dolly Parton as like edgy. But yeah, you just came back.
She's got the whole boob thing.
Which is all that's what I remember.
Right.
She was like this caricature almost.
Oh, that's a good
way of a
way
woman,
of putting it.
and I sort of just didn't give it much more time.
She's got musical chops. She can fucking play sax like a motherfucker.
Yeah, the instruments she can play it's worth a listen as a podcast, and then her music too. I would say what William tagging on to William's Coulter Wall, just incredible storytelling, and that's what really gets me is the stories he tells, and again doesn't make sense with the body he's in. You're like, how?
Yeah.
But incredible. I've been listening to, there's sort of this like, I don't know, weird sort of I don't want to call it industrial, sort of like 80s goth-ish band called The Tempers that I've been really into lately. I've been listening to that a lot. And then I have been sort of consistently like listening to a woman. Her latest project is called Fever Ray. I mean, that's what she's been putting out music as for the last couple years. And I got onto it because I don't know if you've watched the History Channel's the Viking series.
I haven't. Everybody says it's fucking dope as shit.
It is, but the intro song is by her, and I was like, who the hell is this? Like, this is so awesome. And actually, I sent William the song, and he was like, this kind of sounds like that Zay Ingmar song from Rotting Christ. And that's how I got onto Rotting Christ. It's just awesome how that happens, right?
Yeah, I would have to agree that the best part of that show is the intro song.
Aww.
Good.
Because the show is
Aww.
poorly written. I can appreciate the production value, and it looks good, but man...
Yeah, now in the 6th season, the line delivery is just really killing me. I think it has been for a while, but it's really...
He looked past it.
It
was so funny, like just being in Vietnam, and Brigitte, and like she got into Game of Thrones, and she like just needed to watch these like
big burly men.
These
on
big
horses.
burly men.
There you go.
You know,
I don't care if the acting's bad. I need something that takes me away from the day to day.
You're not a metal picks?
Non-metal,
Non-metal.
guys.
Nothing.
I got nothing. I got stuff from last year.
What you got from last year?
I'm a huge slut for Kurt Vile.
Oh, okay.
Kurt Vile really does it for me.
Okay.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
But I think that was last year that his
I
last
think
album
so.
comes
Yeah.
out.
What?
Yeah.
I still go to that when I'm not wanting some brutal.
Kyle?
Yeah, and
know
it
that.
was through another friend that I met in Toronto. He was really into Kurt Vile,
was
and so I
great.
checked out some of that.
Hmm.
It's good song, like really interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, well, especially his last album. I was already a pretty big fan,
Mhm.
but his last album really got me and kind of dragged me in. I really like Wilco a lot, but I don't know if they've come out with anything recently. Like when I'm at home, like my wife is absolutely closed off to metal. Like it's not
Mhm.
going to happen. So like we spin a lot of indie folk rock, but it's like just stations. So like a lot of the times, it's not even a particular artist that I know the songs from. But just a couple of plugs. First Aid Kit is an awesome indie rock, like folk rock group that we really like. We like the Staves a lot. And then Alex, a handful of years ago, really turned me on to Father John Misty, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. Love what he does. But man, 98% of the time, it's metal all the time. Because that's what I do. That's my thing. I'm sticking to it. And I'm sitting here patiently waiting like Baby Yoda, waiting for RTJ4. So there's that too.
Word. Run the jewels.
Oh, right. Yeah. Shouldn't know.
You're all right.
And they already recorded it. We're just waiting for a release date. So
What is left to come out this year, metal-wise?
Not much.
Decapitation. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
So, dirty little secret about the entertainment industry is, for the most part, everybody kind of shuts down in December
Yeah.
and kills it until like the middle of January before you start picking up. So it's kind of a little trick to put what you think is going to be a lesser release in December. Like there's some exceptions, obviously, especially with like the advent of Bandcamp and being able to release your own music on a major distribution level. But for the most part, shit kind of shuts down after Thanksgiving. So there's not a whole lot on the list of what's left to come. I mean, if you dig far enough, you're going to find something
Sure.
great. But for the most part, it's kind of small. Like, we did this with Baroness on Purple. Like, that was their first independent release. And they snuck it in like December 8th, and everybody was freaking out that it wasn't going to be anything, and then it blew up huge. So
It's beautiful.
you might get something, but I wouldn't hold your breath for something.
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I wasn't sure. I thought maybe those like Norwegians might.
They might.
How about you, Hans?
For the non-metal stuff.
Yeah.
We did an episode on this earlier in the year, and I took a lot of shit for it, but I'll fucking stand by it all day. I really fucking like Billie Eilish.
Okay, this is so interesting. People keep fucking talking about her.
Billie Eilish is fucking fun, dude.
Yeah. And isn't she just recording stuff with her brother,
Yep.
like in their house?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm a real sucker for a female pop hit. I don't know why, but it's like always been a thing. Like I got really hardcore into Lorde a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Lord is not bad.
Lorde's pretty great.
Yeah.
Lizzo's record.
I was gonna
I
just
really
gonna ask
fucking
you
love.
about Lizzo.
Fucking love
I
Lizzo's
love
record.
her.
It's got a lot of soul to it. Really
Oh, yeah.
fucking fun.
Also from Detroit.
Yep. Going back to Detroit, the new Raconteurs album is pretty
yeah.
solid.
Yep.
Again, sucker for Jack White, so
Yep.
that it's hard to beat that out.
Our family really is.
Yeah. New Tyler the Creator's pretty decent.
Okay.
It's a little bit out there on this one, but it's still pretty good. So those were my kind of like outside of the metal realm, but we've been so overloaded with quality metal this year that it's been hard to jump on other stuff.
Mhm.
So those have been my like real standouts.
Okay.
Adam,
Alex.
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Do you want me to
Bring
get
it
my
up.
book?
Yeah, is it story time yet?
Well,
Jesus.
are there any more beers you guys want to, like, in particular that you guys want to get to, or anything you guys want to give a shout out to? I definitely, I want to get William's Bandcamp thing, so
Yeah,
I want to
100%.
write that down.
Yeah,
sure.
You want
I
to
think it's
give
gonna
that a
be
shout out?
releasing some
Yeah,
stuff
I've
in
got
the
some
new
stuff
year
I'm
for sure.
gonna try and put out in
Yeah.
Yeah,
at
plug
least
away.
January.
So maybe I
or
can come
February.
back on.
Yeah.
We can come back on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you guys
absolutely.
invite yourselves back to the podcast? Is that just
I
happen?
think we just.
Oh, yeah,
I'll
we've
bring
done that
more
before,
beer.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
no, that's
What are you doing tomorrow?
I was gonna say like, I mean we brought a few beers with us, but I don't know. Like I mean I could talk about that brewery, but if
Well, should we just like split one 4 ways
for sure
and talk about
let's
it?
We
do
could do that.
3
Okay.
sheets then. So yeah,
Can somebody make a fridge run? Yeah, make
I
a fridge
can
run.
get it. Which one am I getting?
3 sheets. It's the one with the brown label. So this is Stonehooker Brewery, and it's on Lake Shore. It's right on Lake Ontario, just down the road from where I live, and it just opened up this year. And really cool place. My wife and I we were just riding bikes along the river trail, and we saw that there was a brewery, and so I was like, oh man, let's stop and have a beer. So we stopped and had a beer the first time, and then ended up coming back a week later, and they had a I want to say Argentinian food truck outside.
Whoa.
And then they also had just some outdoor seating, and they had a little band shell set up and just some like live kind of acoustic music. And man, they're like the choice of beers that they have is always really impressive for how small of a place it is, and just do a really good job. I've met the owners, really friendly people, and great selection of beer, and it's just down the road, so what can you ask for? I mean, like, it's amazing.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
great. It's great.
So here's a question, because we don't hear a whole lot. I don't know if it's a distribution issue, but we don't hear a lot about Canadian breweries.
Okay, so a huge part of that is the way that it's regulated. So, I mean, you've got the two main competing companies are Labatt and Molson.
Yeah.
And they pretty much control distribution throughout Canada. And so they sit on a board, and they kind of approve and disapprove of beers that are allowed to enter the market. You can only buy beer at specific places. So in some states in the U.S., it's similar. I mean, I lived in North Carolina for a while, and so there was a liquor board. You could only buy liquor out of I forget what it was called, but out of a particular store. Pennsylvania's similar. Like, you can't just go to the grocery store and buy vodka, which you can. I mean, you can do that in Michigan, right?
Yeah.
You can buy beer, liquor, and your groceries in the same place. So it's very tightly controlled. So you don't have the same opportunities for small startups. A lot of the when my wife and I first started going to some of these breweries, they couldn't pour you a pint. You could only get a taste. So you could do like a sample, and I remember going to the place, and she was like, if you really like a beer, we can just pour you 5 samples.
Can I get
and it's
30
all-
tastes, please?
it's all-
That'd be great.
I like 100
it's
beers.
like- but like legally, we're not allowed to pour you a pint. We don't have that particular license.
Remember when
so
we were in Montreal? We like at a certain time, if you ordered alcoholic beverage, you also had to order food. Yeah,
And
they
that
couldn't
depends on
serve
and that depends on the place. So I think it's really slowed down the microbrews. But however, it's really coming around. I mean, especially in Ontario now, there's a lot of cool places that are making new beers, and it's really neat. So my mother-in-law works for Labatt.
Yeah, so you sent me a cool little video about that. So, you can pour your own beer or something
So
like that.
it's-
So, explain this whole process to me.
So like I mean, she works like the Labatt headquarters is downtown, and they have this level that is just a bar for the people that work there.
I'm moving to Canada.
Oh my gosh. So it's amazing. So it's just this bar that has they have every tap of every beer that they distribute throughout Canada. So it's all Lef products that come out of Belgium. You've got like Alexander Keith's, all Budweiser products. There's also a brewery called Mill Street Brewery, and they have all of their beers. So you go behind the bar, and she's like
kombucha brew,
yeah,
weird other stuff that they're trying out.
They've got stuff that they're trying now. And so you go behind the bar, and I remember like the first time I did it, my mother-in-law was like, the only thing, like, you have to get the right glass for the right beer company. You can't pour a Lef in a Budweiser, right? So like you have to go behind, you have to grab the right glass, and then you just serve yourself. And there's pool tables, ping pong table, foosball tables, and it's right on Lake Ontario. I mean, it's like you look out the windows and it's absolutely gorgeous.
Whoa,
so
that's awesome.
I got tickets for my parents to see Metallica, and we saw Metallica in Toronto, and 2 hours before the concert started, went to the Labatt.
That's badass.
Like, I had a few beers, and it was so much fun. It was a lot of fun.
I think I sent you where we got to sit for Tool.
Oh, yeah. So we did that for the Tool.
Yeah,
and that was all his mother-in-law.
Yeah, she's amazing.
That was super clutch.
Yeah. Really
Merlin was
cool.
raving about the Tool show on the most recent tour, so I assume it was amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was phenomenal.
Definitely. Was this my favorite album? No. I think this was my 5th time seeing them, and I think we're going back and forth, like, what was my favorite time. I mean, this, being able to see it with my brothers there, being this close to the stage, super comfortable, was awesome. And they sounded incredible.
And played songs throughout their career, right? They didn't just play the new album.
No,
right?
It was only a couple songs off the new album, so it was a lot of going back.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thank
Thanks.
you again very much for bringing
dude,
this around.
Thank you for having us.
Anytime.
Ooh, that is so different.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's for real.
Now you get the Belgian and the IPA.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. It's I heard, I think one of the first episodes that I'd really listened to you guys when Brigitte told me was your Russian Circle review album, and I think it was you, Alex. It was, and I could be wrong, but you said going into a place and you want to order something different, but you just what you like, and you get the same one. And that's how I feel. Like, they've got so many different beers, and every time I'm like, that could be good, but I know this is really good, so I get this beer every single time.
Yeah, this really hits hits a stride with me, because my favorite style of beer is IPA. My second favorite style of beer is Belgian. And so you get the sweetness off of the Belgian-y notes there, but you also get a hop, so it sort of hits you in the jaw,
right?
And it's oh yes,
but it completely smooths out the bite of it. That's nuts. Right. And the nose is so much fucking different than the taste.
It's really floor.
Yeah. Fuck, that's delicious, dude. Thank you very much.
Man. Absolutely.
William, I gotta ask you this question.
Yeah.
How's the hockey in Ontario?
Oh man, it's better than it is in Detroit.
Yeah.
You son of a...
No. And you're talking to somebody that it blows my wife's mind that my affiliations don't change with the city that I live in. It's I'll go see the Maple Leafs. I grew up watching Detroit hockey. That doesn't change. I can't erase watching us raise the Stanley Cup 4 years, which is always my rebuttal to anyone that wants to talk about how great Toronto is now. It's okay, win a couple cups and then we'll talk. Sure. This year, okay, they're great. They just fired our old coach that they took from Detroit. I love watching hockey, and so it's awesome. It's cool to be in a city that it's they talk about hockey it's the only thing happening.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's really it's cool. I mean, I like being around. I love the sport, so I like talking the sport with those people.
I love hockey so much. I love going to Canada for that reason. Is you can like sit down at any bar and like some old guys willing to,
Yeah.
Drink
Yeah.
and talk hockey. I've done that a couple of times, which is extremely fun. But man, I gotta say, like the fans around here, now that I'm back home again, they disappoint me. If they're not winning, they don't want to watch the Red
Right.
Wings, and I'm like, you guys, you fuck.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you gotta be in for the long haul. Like people were so quick to get rid of Kenny Holland, who is the general manager of the Red Wings. We went to 6 Stanley Cups. We won 4 of them. Like, what more could you possibly want? And people are like, oh, this team sucks.
Yeah.
We're not going to win the cup every year, guys.
Right.
I got news for you.
Right.
No, that
what-
part is frustrating.
Yeah.
This is probably the worst year we've had since the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm loud and proud, still wearing my hat. So
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
some of that's intentional. Like, it's not like you're going for greatness. You might as well tank if you're not gonna be good. You might as well be really not good.
Al is very much for, if you're gonna lose hard, so that you can get that
all
lottery
of them.
spot to win the next first pick. But we're learning over and over again though that top pick. Sometimes
May or may not,
sometimes you get lucky and the top pick is like an incredible player, but sometimes it's the 15th, sometimes it's the 20th,
Right.
sometimes it's the 30th. You know.
I mean, that's what, like those teams that won it. I mean, like it wasn't because we just randomly came across a Sidney Crosby, right?
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
it was having these guys that came out of Russia and that were lower picks. That I mean, the development and that's what I think you get to see where the Red Wings are now. I mean, you get to see a lot of these younger guys that are like could be something in the next couple of years. It's not going to take 10 years to do, like you get, I don't know. But I completely agree with you. And that's why it's like, it doesn't, my affiliation doesn't go away because I'm in a new city. I will always be a Red Wings fan, man. Absolutely.
Good man.
Doesn't matter where I live. Yeah. 100%. But like Red Wings, I followed Red Wings. I'm not a big baseball guy. I would root for the Tigers, but since I've been in Toronto, and having the connections that my mother-in-law does, I've gotten to see a lot of the Blue Jays games and stuff like that, so that's cool. And then also being around the Raptors to see like a Canadian team
sure.
win
Oh, yeah,
that,
that's
that
huge.
was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I never really followed the NBA. My family doesn't really, so I don't really have those. So sure, I'll be a Toronto fan. When it comes to hockey,
But not a Drake fan.
oh Lord,
We
let's
draw
not
the
get on
line
that.
Oh boy.
That's another podcast.
We draw the line at Drake.
Oh shit. Adam, you got anything else you want to hit?
I don't think so. I want to formally extend the invite. Next year, we got to have you guys back on. This has
Absolutely.
been so
This
much
has been
fun.
tremendous.
Cool.
Like you guys are just like perfectly in line to talk about interesting shit that we love to talk about. So it's been awesome. The last couple hours have been tremendous.
This has been really fun, guys. And thanks for
Nodding
bringing
my head
beers.
violently.
It's been fun. So, like, here's the thing: if you find like a particular band that you guys are huge on, that you guys want to come back in and drop your 2 cents on,
Got it.
like,
Cool.
feel free.
Awesome.
Yeah, in the next couple weeks, send us your list too if you want. We
Yeah.
can share.
I'll
Like
try and come up with a format for that so we can kind of get it even, make it easy to do for you guys on your own. So,
Sure.
yep.
If you guys are ever in Canada, you want to come to Toronto?
thanks, man.
Yeah, please.
He just
Let me
bought
know.
his place.
Just bought a place.
Oh,
so-
yeah.
Congrats, man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And he's got a spare room. So
Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So, for this week's Lumberslayer and Friends podcast, I have been Alex Lumberslayer along with
Adam Friedman.
and
Brigitte Evariste.
William Durnwald.
and we'll see you.
T-shirts.
I love T-shirts. I love small
Print.
T-shirts. Don't fucking move. Every time I pull it up on the map, it tells me to drive north through Sarnia.
Grab it by the mic and pull it closer to you. You can drink okay.
Ooh.
I'm kidding.
My Bloody Mary was too pickled.
It was
Well,
way too pickled this morning. How craft is your $14 cocktail now?
You okay there, Al?
Cool, fun stuff.
Oh, I'm real good.
No, I tear them off with my teeth.
It's stiff.
It's stiff.
It's because we're nerds and we have enthusiasm for these silly things.
But then she's got a book.
I mean, I end up moving around, especially when I get a few beers in me.